What's going on, YouTube? Good to see you. Happy Friday, number 149 of the Heavy Metallurgy Friday show. It's good to see everyone. Good to see you, Alen. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. It's been just a long, busy week. We're looking at a pretty rainy weekend ahead, so hoping we can just kind of hunker down and have a nice, quiet time at home. But we'll see how it goes. Before we do that, we're going to hunker down here and have a nice, fun time talking to everybody in the chat and our guest about some heavy metal stuff.
Absolutely. Before we bring the guest on, who we're super psyched to have, I want to show the shirts that we've got available again. I know there is a couple Heavy Metallurgy Sex Condor designs in the queue for a couple weeks now. For those of you who don't know, I do binder recordings as well. One-man operation. I'm also a screen printer, which is a business out of my own house. I've been slammed busy printing Lamp of Murmur merch. So just got that done this week. Now I can get this other stuff caught up. But if you don't have any shirts of ours yet, the latest two are the Collector Scum, the Napalm Death parody. Obviously a term we throw around quite loosely around here because the shoe fits. And also the latest by Lee G, Sex Condor design. Up and available. He does heavy art talk. He also just did a very killer design for gas masks and hand grenades. Go over and check out gas mask and hand grenades and the design there. Hi, Butterfly. No, you cannot be on YouTube. Anyway, so yeah, links in the description for the merch. There's going to be more coming. I'm going to get patches made, and I might be also doing coffee mugs sooner than later. So we'll be talking about that soon. But anyway, should we bring out our guest?
We should, absolutely.
This gentleman has been on once before. We introduced his channel, had a little once or twice. I don't remember. The years bleed together. Anyway, Logan, he's changed the name of the channel from the drunken metalhead who muses to metal and beer snob. So welcome, Logan. It's good to have you back. How have you been?
Cheers, guys. Man, I've been good. Yeah, happy to be back. Slightly rebranded, same amount of beer though. I just, you're playing with the algorithm, right? You're trying to figure out if there's any difference in the names and everything. Yeah, I've been good since the last time I was on. I kind of did a small relocation. I'm now in New Orleans, slightly a hotter area.
Sucker.
Yep, I got suckered in. More Southern Sludge, which I'm actually a big fan of, so I'll take that. But happy to be on, guys. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to talking about 2014.
Absolutely. And actually it was Logan that chose this year, which is cool because we, Al and I being of the older persuasion, we tend to gravitate towards the more nostalgic era, and which we're chewing through the 80s pretty quick. I think we pretty much got the 80s.
We got a few years left, but not many. Yep.
Not many. Knocked on the head. So it's good to turn to the 2000s, newer year. What made you decide, well, you had two to choose from, and we went with the 10-year anniversary. So what made you choose 2014?
Kind of exactly what you said. It's newer, and also this is really when I was having my formative years. Like part of the fun for me watching, you guys talk and spin poetic about like the 80s and the 90s is that it's like you guys discovering all this exciting music, and it just sounds like such a great time to have been a metalhead. I didn't get to experience that. This was my time period to kind of have discoveries every week. I was just soaking up so much new music at this time. I was in college, 20 to 21 was how old I was during 2014, and I had so much time to just dedicate to music, and everything sounded new and exciting, and yeah, it was one of the golden years, so to speak, for me. So
very cool.
It's easy to sit here and say, oh, the 80s and 90s were better, blah, blah, blah. But really, it's not true. I'm looking over the list of stuff, and we've said this before. I never get every year. There's always someone, hey, what's up, Lee? There's always someone online that's like, oh, this year sucked for metal. And I don't get that. Every year, there's good stuff every single year. And if you're coming up in this time, I mean, there's a good, wide, diverse swath to choose from, and it all depends on when you jump into it.
It's really about what you're able to attach, like your memories and your first, just those important listens where you're like, wow, this is my first blast beat, or guttural death metal vocal that really clicked with me, or I've never heard music like this before. And
Mm-hmm.
that music that can do that for listeners comes out every year for sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. And it's when you've got, a little more time. It doesn't seem like you have time then, but when you look back at it, it's just like, man, I spent so
Absolutely.
much time just being able to sit and listen without
just-
having to do other things. And then, 20
just
years later, just
focus.
like you hardly ever get
Mhm.
that time to do it. So yeah, exactly. You have time to focus on it a lot more
Yep.
than you do later in
Like,
life.
now I'll have a lot listening while I work, but is it really listening if you're just
Mhm.
honed in and it's just background noise? It's white noise essentially, and it's tough for a new album to come out of that noise to grab me like it did back then,
Right.
10 years ago.
Yeah, and it's amazing too. 10 years ago, you're a lot younger. You don't have as much disposable income. The older we get, a little more secure we get, and we
Mhm.
find ways of blowing money on stuff we don't need, and just like one or two listens and into the abyss it goes.
And
But go ahead.
Mhm.
I didn't
I
mean
was
to
going
cut you off.
to agree with Jack over here. This is a year that I was like, I was there. I can actually comment on when the stuff came out versus just being like, well, yeah, I'm sure in the rear view, being like a backseat driver or Monday quarterback.
My grandpa told me about that album. He said he liked it.
Exactly.
So what were you doing 10 years ago, Logan? What was young Logan's life looking like at that point?
All right. Well, I was 20 going on 21, and firmly in college. As I said, plenty of time on my hands. I definitely didn't realize how lucky I was then. A lot of it was just digesting music. I was going to NC State at the time in North Carolina, and I was one of those people who commuted in. So that was a good 45 minutes. Well, I guess an hour and a half. Each day commuting into the downtown Raleigh area, and plenty of time to listen to music and plenty of time to pretend to be studying while the whole time I'm just listening to music. And also an introduction of my vice. I started drinking at age 20 going to 21, and though I don't really drink Rolling Rock anymore, that was all I had back then. This was the champagne. This is as good as it got back in 2014. So
Green bottle beers are
throwing
always
them back.
skunky. Always skunky to me. Because the light
Well-
hits them on the shelf and they get skunky tasting. I just
You have
never
to
liked
drink.
it.
You have to drink them faster. That's the thing.
Well, that was never a
You know-
problem. It's just
So you had both the metal and the beer parts
Yes.
of
hence the name.
At that
going
point.
on.
Yep.
Very
And
cool.
here we are. Nothing has changed.
Yep.
Where were you commuting in from, if you don't mind my asking?
I was in North Raleigh. I was
North Raleigh. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it takes a while to get through Raleigh. I was at NC State about a decade before you were, so
Yes, I
yeah,
remember you
I know
because
the area.
you've talked about School Kids Records and stuff, and that was the first record store that I frequented.
I
was
figured
that
it would
one,
be
and-
one that yep. Yeah, I haven't been up there in years.
Was
but,
School Kids a chain? Because there was it seems like there was a School Kids Records in Ann Arbor.
not that I know of, but it could have been a small chain with a few scattered places. It's also not that unusual a name, so it may have just been coincidence.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never heard of another one. The big chain down here in those days was Manifest, was kind of a southeastern chain that was really good and had stores in a lot of places. But they didn't have one in Raleigh. Not at that time.
They had one in Charlotte though, and that Charlotte Manifest was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
It shut down pretty recently.
Yeah, the one in Columbia, South Carolina was really good. It was one of the last ones to close. The one in Greenville turned into Earshot, and then that closed down later too. So yeah, I don't think any of them are left anymore.
Well, Logan, we might as well start with you. You've already said what you were doing. We'll get to Alen next on what he was doing 10 years ago. But why don't you start us
All right.
off with one
All right.
here?
So, since I was such an avid listener, I had started making year-end lists. Probably it was 2012 was my first year-end list, and they gradually grew. And I figured a good way to start off this evening would be to reflect on my top 5 from 2014 for my year-end list. So my number 1 album of the year, 2014, drum roll, was
Oh,
Bear.
nice one.
Foundations of Burden. So this one just hit all the right notes for me back then. I was not necessarily a happy college student, believe it or not. I did not like taking tests. I didn't like a lot of my studies and stuff. And this is quite a sorrowful album, and it definitely was a good backdrop for those feelings. We're definitely doom here, but it sounds very modern. I mean, this is not like an epic doom. This is, if you wanted to call it pitchfork doom, I wouldn't blame you. You could lob some insults like that at Paul Bear, and they would land. But I think this album is perfect. It's kind of still holds up. The main reason it's so good, it's got 2 stellar songs that just anchor it. Opening track, Worlds Apart, is beautiful. And then the centerpiece, The Ghost I Used to Be, that's the magnum opus, man. That's just one of those tracks that just gives you chills, and you get the goosebumps when you hear that song, especially when it picks up about halfway through. And you get like their gruff shouted vocals. So, and then I like how this album ends on a down 2 note. It ends on track 6 with Vanished, where it's very just kind of fades away in like this very melancholy atmosphere. So I don't know, just beautiful album. Gonna show off the Starman, Starman on the inside, and then. If Depeche Commode is in the chat, he loves colored vinyl.
He is.
So I want to show off some cool colored vinyl for him. There we go.
Oh, nice.
Right. Yeah. So it was number 1 for
right on
Logan.
Yeah, that's a good pick, and I have that on my list for this year too. Paul Bear was a interesting band. I kind of lost track of them, like on album 3 or 4, not because they didn't sound good. It's one of those bands I liked, but I apparently didn't like them enough to keep up with them long term. But they made a pretty good splash there for the first half of that decade with their first 2 albums.
Yep, it was album 4 for me. Like their follow-up was Heartless, and that one's great. But the one after that, didn't do anything. Yeah,
they're the kind of thing. I'll still see them, in record stores from time to time, be like, oh yeah, I never did get around to buying that. And I'm not going to buy it today either, apparently. But a good band. There's kind of a newer wave of doom bands like them and Chemists, where it's very doomy, but has, like you said, it's not traditional doom. It's got more of a almost it's more like of a kind of a rock vibe in the background, which kind of gave them a unique direction. It works fairly well. Good deal.
Alen, how about you? What were you doing 10 years ago?
10 years ago, I was not paying a lot of attention to new releases in heavy metal, to be honest. I kind of look back through what kind of stuff I was buying 10 years ago. I really was, deep in the rabbit hole of obscure 80s metal. But to be honest, even there, a lot of it I was just getting through like MP3 trading with other folks. So, it really just didn't up with a ton of things at that point. It was interesting looking like through band lists and like who released things in 2014. You have very few of the big name old guard bands had anything come out. Judas Priest had Redeemer of Souls.
Yep.
But you didn't have a ton of the other, kind of big old school titans with albums. You had some younger bands that were doing quite well and making a name for themselves. But it was kind of, an odd mix of stuff coming out, and I just wasn't paying attention. A big part of it was, I was just starting a family, was taking care of a baby, and something I learned early on in terms of, having to get up in the middle of the night to, take care of him when he was crying and stuff like that. If I listen, a lot of times I'd, be sitting there on the couch holding him for like, an hour, rocking him back to sleep and stuff. If I played music in the background or like on headphones, it started to put me to sleep. It's like, I can't fall asleep holding this little guy.
I did a bunch of times. I'd fall asleep with Parker all the time, wake up 2 hours later, like, oh crap, I'm still holding him. Good. It's like an instinct thing. You just kind of hold him, it's weird.
I guess, yeah. But what I figured out was if I listened to podcasts, I wouldn't doze off because I was just actively paying attention to the conversation. So yeah, 2014 was a year where I was listening to a lot more podcast kind of stuff just by necessity, trying to stay awake at night. I got some. What's Ryan up to over here? Yep. So I got some things here and there. I got a couple of nice vinyl items off my want list. But again, with taking care of little guy, wasn't looking to spend as much money in the first place. I wasn't going out to record stores or record shows very often, and the local stores really weren't caring very much around that time. We were just talking about like Manifest and Earshot and stuff. I feel like 2014 was pretty late in the cycle for Earshot, that they did really well for several years after kind of breaking off from Manifest, but then they kind of went into a long, slow decline. The other local record store that was around at the time hadn't got into metal yet. You could go in every now and then and dig up, something that somebody had brought in used, but they were carrying very, very little metal. So yeah, I wasn't finding a lot of stuff on eBay that I wanted, was saving money. So just wasn't a ton of stuff. What I was getting for new releases was usually a digital platform. I was subscribed to eMusic back then, which basically, for folks that don't know eMusic, which is probably everybody, you paid a certain amount per month, and then you could download X number of albums. The albums were priced individually, usually like around $3 a piece. So like you would pay $10 a month, and that would get you like 3 albums plus a couple of loose songs. And that was kind of a good pace for me. I didn't need a lot of CD clutter with all the baby stuff around. I didn't have time to listen to a lot of stuff. So I was like, yeah, okay, this works. So that's, some of the stuff I'll show tonight is digital because I got it and I never really did replace it or upgrade it. So yeah, that was kind of my headspace for 2014. Comparing it to other years in the early 2010s, I didn't really get less or more stuff in 2014. It was kind of consistent, but it wasn't nearly as much as I've gotten, say, in the past 5 years, or how much I was getting like in the late 2000s in the aughts. So with all of that, we'll kick this off with the most important release of 2014, bar none. Paul Bear's fine. That's a good pick for Logan, but he's overlooking the obvious. We got to go with this bad boy right here. Johnny Touch's Inner City something or another.
That set 2014 on its ass, I'll tell you. People were clamoring in the streets.
Bands were put on notice. And then the band broke up and went their way, and those bands went about their business. But longtime Metallurgy fans will know this is one that TJ brought to the album club a long time ago, and didn't get the best reception from folks. It's kind of a fun listen, though. It's a guilty pleasure kind of album for me. But we're not going to actually talk about it in any more detail than that. I want to kind of do the same thing Logan did, I think. I want to kind of just start with a couple of the top favorites from the year and work my way down. Number one for me, best album of 2014 would be this one, the second Unisonic album, Dawn of Light. The other way, Light of Dawn.
Oh, you have a digipack version of that?
I do have a digipack version of that.
Is there bonus material on that?
There is bonus material on this.
Damn it!
I think there is. There's at least one thing that's a bonus track. But folks have heard Marty and I talk about this band before. It's Michael Kiska getting together with Kai Hansen and some of the guys from Pink Cream 69. The first album they did was pretty good. It's a little more basic, a little more bluesy.
AOR.
Yeah, a little bit.
Good though.
This one, still good. But this one goes right back to their power metal roots. Yeah, this is one of the few albums where I felt like those artists really did get close to recapturing that, Keeper of the Seven Keys kind of vibe.
Oh yeah.
Amazing album. I think this album gets about 9 songs deep before there's one that I feel like isn't just, absolutely brilliant in that style. So yeah, blew me away. I can thank Marty for this one because I missed this project when it came out in 2014. Didn't know about it until later when Marty's like, "Yeah, you should go listen to that, dumbass." It's like, okay. And
I did not say that, for the record. I did not call the professor a
paraphrase.
dumbass.
Paraphrase.
He calls me a dumbass all the time, but it's fair. It's fair.
In the parlance of our town. Yeah. So,
kettle.
but yes, if you like, and that's something I did notice. It's going to be a bit power metal heavy tonight. 2014 had a lot of good power metal stuff that caught my ear. So, and this one is the best album of the year. There's a couple of other really good ones we'll get to, but yeah, nothing trumps Unisonic. Real shame they didn't get to do more releases, but a few years after this, Kiska was negotiating things to kind of join back up with the Pumpkins United project and Halloween, and that's delivered some awesome music too, so we can't complain too much. But I'll always kind of wonder, what would the third Unisonic album have sounded like? Would they have stuck to this, or would they have kept kind of changing styles like they did from album 1 to album 2? We may never know. Sad.
Yeah.
Well, but it's good that you guys are having me on, because maybe there won't be overlap actually, because no power metal over here at all. Right. I'm still in I'm a serious metal fan. I can't listen to fun, happy stuff.
That's why that used to be me too, but that goes away and things are so much better.
It's fun to have fun.
I'll get there eventually. I'll hit is it a bottom of rock bottom kind of moment, Marty, or when you realize that you're like, all right, I'll take power metal now.
Yeah. I don't know what
you run out of Rolling Rock and just realize like, party's over. Or wait a second.
What is it?
Is it?
Yep.
Good deal. All right. So that's kind of my 2014 experience leading off. Marty, what was yours? Where was the worm in 2014?
Well, right here, doing my thing. I realized looking at the list of releases that my label, Binary Recordings, put out five releases, 4 or 5. I'm going to show them later on in the episode. Talk about those a little bit. So a productive year for the label. I realized looking over the list, I was a lot more in touch of what was going on, what was new at the time than I am nowadays, which is funny because we do try to stay on top of things, but let's face it, too many bands. But that's neither here nor there. But no, working on the label. I think I was doing videos at this point. I'm pretty sure I was on this channel. It was just to be under my name, but now it's it is what it's gotten better. So yeah, so nothing really groundbreaking other than the fact that I appreciate the fact looking over the list, the diversity. Again, every year there's always great stuff. You just got to look for it and be open to it. And but we're going to start off on my list here with a complete banger from the year. I can never say the name of this. Promulgations of the Fall. I guess that's right. By Dead Congregation. Holy crap-a-moly. This is probably one of the best European death metal bands. Really? I mean, they have not been a prolific band. They put out 2 full lengths, a couple EPs, and that's about it. They keep playing live. They keep teasing us. I mean, it's been 10 years since they put out a full length. So a lot of bands have copied this sound too. I don't know if it was 100% unique when Dead Congregation came upon it, but they really did a good job with it. This is just well written. They've got a very dark sound to them. Great production on this record. Everything can be heard. It's evil. The riffage is just amazing. The songwriting is excellent. Well composed songs from start to finish. Good pacing and speed and slower parts. I mean, there's a reason why a lot of bands copy this sound. I mean, if you look at a band like Sulphur Aeon, that's kind of Dead Congregation to me is the blueprint for Sulphur Aeon, but Sulphur Aeon got a little bit more crazy, darker, more morbid angel-y with it, I guess. But yep, awesome band. It was cool to see that this came out 10 years ago. Great record.
Yep.
That's a band I need to check out.
I think you'd like them.
I hear that, and I messed up. There was one of their albums showed up in a used bin a few months ago. And it was one of those times where I already had several other things. I'm like, maybe I'll get it next time. And of course,
nah, that's not going to live long.
Was it Grave of the Archangels or this one?
I think it was the Archangel one.
Okay.
Yep.
I believe. But yeah, it's one of those bands, unfortunately, I tend to get mixed up with others because of the there's Dead Congregation and Morphle Congregation, and then there's Dead other things. And it's sometimes I'm just like, I don't remember. Was this the one I wanted? Maybe it was the other band. And so I'll just walk away. But that's bad on me.
Yeah, super intense and just doesn't let up. So
Mm-mm,
I was
great.
Yeah. I'm glad this got mentioned early on. And Kellen did a great video about them on his that they kind of kick-started the whole death metal renaissance, if you will, of that as kind of like the 2010s. And there'll be some more death metal like of similar style I'll bring up later.
Yeah.
But
if he had made that video about 6 weeks earlier, I'd have bought that CD. So actually, Kellen,
damn it, Kellen,
it's your fault.
It's his fault. Yep.
Come on, chop, get those videos.
You know what? I might have Graves of the Archangels on CD and LP. If I do, I'll send you the CD of it, Alan. I'll have to double check. I may not. Okay. I may or may not. But if I do, it's yours.
Oh, no worries. That's cool, man. Thanks.
All right, Logan. What's your next poll?
Let's see. So going back to my top 5. So number 2 from my best of 2014 was this album right here, the Satanist. Yes,
I knew you would pick that one. Yep.
Yeah, this has to be it. And every year I feel like you can kind of pick an album that gets like the overall like the metal zeitgeist album of the year award, kind of, where like magazines, talking heads, everyone comes together and just like unilaterally praises one album. Like, for example, last year it seemed like Horrendous's latest album got that Ontological Mysterium. Everyone was head over heels with that one, except Marty over there, because Marty doesn't like what everyone else likes.
That's right.
That is good.
Until 10 years later, I'm like, whoa, this is great.
Maybe they were right. But for 2014, this was that album, and really there was just a lot of hype. It was kind of almost like an engineered story, if you will, for Behemoth. And this album helped them really, I think, launch into their next phase of their career, which I'm not necessarily a big fan of, but still they are now like the headliner versus the support.
Yep.
They can now be very higher up in festivals and stuff, even over in like the European areas. And it's because like leading up to this, Nurgle had he had leukemia, and then there was also they were being sued by the Polish church or the Polish government.
Someone in the government or media, yeah.
They were embroiled in controversy, of course, about their blasphemic lyrics. And metalheads, we love when the underdog is fighting against the church. I mean, that doesn't happen anymore in the U.S., so we've got to go over to Poland to find examples of that. And so this was ready to be the number 1 album for 2014 for a lot of people. And to me, for good reason, too. Like, I am 100% behind this being, like, a superb 9 out of 10 kind of album. And, Marty, you were saying that Sulphur Aeon picked up Dead Congregation for, like, their sound.
They have a similar feel to me.
With, like, maybe the core. I hear a lot of, like, this in, like, when they kind of go big and bombastic and have that. They almost sound like kind of biblical in nature and, like praising the almighty Cthulhu and shit like that. Yeah. I hear this album right here, because that's what this album is, except for, of course, Satan, and there's some just really amazing tracks on here. Messe Noir has one of the best guitar solos of the year for sure. Ora Pro Norbis Lucifer, track 4, is just really just barrels over everything. And then the final track is the highlight, O Father, O Satan, O Son. That is just a 10 out of 10, like, beautiful song. And it sounds truly like biblical and heaping praise on the Luciferian figure, if you will. So this album got a lot of praise, deservedly so. I do think Behemoth fell off after this, and honestly, this is the only Behemoth album I actually like. I've tried some of their older stuff, and it's never clicked with me. So I haven't gone as far back as their black metal days, but like Demigod and Evangelion did not do too much. So
You need to check out that 70th Storming Near the Baltic album. Kind of
Okay.
like the Polish Emperor. They're trying to be Emperor a little bit on that one. It's a good record. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, another good pick from Logan. Yeah, it's a very good album. It's got great sound. It's varied. Everything's balanced really nicely. Yeah, it's a really interesting album. It deserves a lot of the praise it gets. But yeah, the rest of their catalog, I like some of the stuff before that in the death metal, but I don't go back and replay it very often. The black metal stuff I kind of like, but they are kind of second tier black metal back then.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's not an
exceptional.
album that's really up there on the top tier, but I do like what they did. So yeah, they changed styles. They were successful with it. Now they've gotten a little weird on the last couple albums, but yeah.
Yeah, too much post punk. Like there was a good variety, or just very little of that influence in the Satanist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't hear much of that. Yeah, they've got they've gotten a little too dramatic on some of these last albums too. I loved you at your darkest. What? I love you too, Nurgle. Maybe. We need to talk.
All right, Alen.
All right. Not sure if this is actually number 2 favorite for 2014, but it's very far up there. And it's one I never hear folks mention very much, but I've always liked the album. And it is one I got when it came out because I've always kind of liked the band and keep up with them. It's Anathema's Distant Satellites. This one, in a way, it's another Anathema album from this era. The albums they were doing in the 2010s, are very steeped, in post-punk kind of stuff, post-rock material, and they're very good at it. They can feel a little samey sometimes, but they do a very, very nice job. People sometimes want to poo-poo on this era of the band because, it's not Death Doom anymore. They hadn't played Death Doom in like 30 years at this point. It's time to let it go, folks. They're not going back to that, really. They never were. This album in particular, what kind of makes it a little bit different from Weather Systems and We're Here Because We're Here, it's got a little bit of a warmer tone. Those albums have the same kind of overall uplifting, very nice, pleasant vibe, but they're a little more airy in construction. This one's got a little bit of just more warmer tone. They use like a organ for some parts of it, and it just gives this really nice, rich feel to the songs. They don't use it a lot, so when they bring it in, it's to really good effect. But yeah, it's just a very easy album to listen to, very low key, but still interesting. It's not that it's boring. It's not background music. The songs work well. It's just really good performances by a very talented band. And it's the last album from them. Well, let's see. I think Weather Systems. It's one of the last albums that I really, really liked by the band. Their final album never really clicked with me. There's one other in there that it was kind of a little bit of a swing and a miss. But yeah, they did 2 or 3 in a row here that I thought were very, very good. They had a little bit of a hiatus in part of the 2000s, but when they bounced back in the 2010s, they were really on point for several albums in a row. So yeah, Anathema has their highs and lows. I don't love everything in their catalog, but they've done a lot of interesting stuff. And this is one that just connected with me very well. It was a really just nice, pleasant album and well put together, but had a little bit of a different sound from the others. So yeah, it's one I tend to go back to, which is why it's relatively high in my rankings for 2014 albums. Some of their stuff I just hardly ever play. Distant Satellites I still will pull off the shelf from time to time.
All right. Well, let's get this out of the way. The other Halloween connection here. Gamma Ray, the last Gamma Ray album so far, Empire of the Undead. So Kai did
10 years since there was a Gamma Ray album. Wow, that just hit me between the eyes.
Yep. And Unisonic and Gamma Ray put out both of these albums are great. This is a great Gamma Ray record. It really is. There really isn't anything bad on here.
Nope.
It's a great record. And I don't know. I'm getting the impression that there's they're reuniting and doing some live stuff this year. So, but yeah, this starts off with Avalon. What an amazing song! It's a kind of a slower song, build up song, but great song. Kai he knows what he's doing, man. He's a great songwriter. And this is a great band. They really are. Henyo is an amazing guitar player, and Dirk, amazing bass player, composer. Great band. We'll see what happens with Gamma Ray. But yeah, if this is the final Gamma Ray record, that was the reason why I was kind of, both of these records are exceptional. The last Halloween album, My God-Given Right, before the reunion, I like that as well. 3/4 of that record is great. So I didn't really care that if Kiska and Darius got back, or Hansen got back, but they did. And it's all great. But 2014 has two awesome
Kai Hansen albums, yeah.
Kai Hansen records right here. So awesome, great stuff.
Yeah, Gamma Ray always was, it took them a little while to find their feet, but, they always were the spiritual successor to Halloween after, Kai left. Because it took Halloween a little while to find their feet after he left as well. But
my kid,
we ended up with two good bands eventually.
Absolutely. My kid has been really into, I bought him that Blast from the Past album where Kai goes back and re-records tracks off the first 3 Gamma Ray records with him singing on it.
Oh, yeah.
The songs are absolutely great, man. There was some goofy stuff on those first 3 records. If you can overlook that, there's great material on all of them. He's never really faltered.
Heading for Tomorrow.
Marty.
I actually really like.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Logan.
So I was going to say Heading for Tomorrow. I actually really like. That's a killer. That's a good album.
It's a great song, great album.
Great song, yeah.
I do have to chastise Marty. It's not nice to call Ralph Shapers goofy. Yeah, and that's just not cool.
He's a good singer. I don't know. I don't get your problem with the guy. I just don't.
It's a little too nasal. He's a good singer, but he's a bit nasal, and it's just enough that it bugs me.
Aha, gotcha.
Yep, I've been working on pinning that down so that when I call him goofy, I've got a reason to call him goofy. When you say there's goofy stuff on the early albums, you're just being mean.
He's gotten awful buff. I don't think I'd call him goofy around him.
Ralph, if you're watching this, Marty's the one who called you goofy.
No. No. All right, Logan, what you got? What's next?
All right. So number 3 on my year-end list was Trypticon with their album Milana Kazmata. And
man, we do have a lot of overlap.
I said that. Okay, see? Well, Alen, you must have made the thumbnail, right? Because I was looking at it, I was like, oh shit, there's all my albums right there on the fucking thumbnail. Yep. Here I am thinking I have some unique tastes, but nope, it's all right there. And that's what happens every year. You're like, oh, I curated this special list.
I'm bringing the heat.
And then everyone has the same list. You're like, okay.
Yeah. My tastes are so eclectic and obscure. No one knows it. Oh, everybody.
I am unique, just like everyone else.
I am a snowflake, a special flower. Yep.
That is I. But yeah, and so funny perspective for me. We're talking about different perspectives. This is my first exposure to Celtic Frost and the Tom G. Warrior, and his output was this album right here. Like I hadn't heard Monotheist or Circle the Tyrants or anything before this. So, I mean, I fell in love right away. That
Trypticon, that whole Trypticon is a spiritual successor to Monotheist. It's like they finally got it right. Now he's just continuing with it. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I mean, I absolutely agree. Now that I realize that, I can see exactly how we got here, and I have not ventured into the pandemonium yet. But
have fun when you go there.
I don't think I will. I just skipped ahead to the good part, I guess.
It has its moments. There's a couple good songs on it. But
this just has such a good dynamic of all the different elements that really make up Tom and what he's trying to do. Like it's pretentious without actually being too pretentious. It's got like the doomier elements. It's got some more savage, almost like straight like death metal or black metal elements. And man, when it really wants to get kind of beautiful and haunting, it does. Absolutely. I mean, and that's kind of what makes this album stick with me too, are those haunting moments. forget her name. Is it the bassist does backing vocals on here, and man, she delivers on tracks like track 2, Bullskin House, track 4, Aurora, and then the final song, Waiting. And that's kind of like it's evenly spaced throughout the album. That just helps to break up all the dirges and the speed. And I do like how it trades from the intensity of songs like Breathing to the more like doom elements of like Altar of Deceit and stuff. There's just so much to digest here. There's so much variety, and I think it's unique. And I'm wondering if this is going to be the final release from Mr. Mr. Fisher.
I wonder how old he is.
Mr. Gabriel.
He's
He's 60. He was born in 63.
Okay.
So he's turning 61 this year.
He's got time to do something else, but at the same time, that means he hasn't released anything new for a decade already. So
yeah,
I mean, he's still active. They play live a lot, I guess, with projects. But yeah,
he likes the Hellhammer stuff again.
Yeah.
Yeah, he hated it for like I was just typing in the chat. He always called it juvenile and an embarrassment, and I'm just like, really?
He's warmed back up.
Yeah.
The H.R. Geiger artwork too. That was just amazing. From
I bet you if everybody was saying how much of a creative achievement Cold Lake was, he'd be changing his tune on that too. But
dude's got to eat.
Yeah.
I don't know when that's going to happen.
Those kitties won't feed themselves.
Yeah, no, that's a good pick, Logan. You described it perfectly too. It sits right there. It's got the death elements, the dark elements, the doomy elements. I like that one better than the debut Trypticon album by a little bit. They're both good. I like this one maybe.
I didn't know if it was because I heard it first, but it just felt more cohesive.
Mm-hmm. Yep, well said. All right, looks like it's back to me. Okay, so we'll call this one number 3 from 2014. If it's not, it's close. It was the first album from Riot under the Riot Mark V moniker, Unleash the Fire. So this one, of course, is very noteworthy for being the first one after Mark Reale had passed away. So there was a lot of debate, about would the band continue, should the band continue. Mike, has said that Mark's father, after the funeral, talked to him and said, "I really want you to continue Mark's legacy if you want to. You've got my blessing. Please, if you're up for it, please do it. I'd rather the band not end just because he has." And so Mike has kept it going, and they've done 2 albums and about to release their 3rd under Riot 5. The whole V thing was, I think, just to again distinguish it a little bit from the albums with Mark on it. It's also the 5th iteration in terms of lead vocalists, they've gone through, they're on their 5th at this point, which is crazy to think about, that a band could survive that many vocal changes. And all of them have been really good. They've been incredibly lucky over the years to always find someone good to put up there behind the mic. Really good album. It kind of leans towards the Thundersteel style of power metal. It's not quite as fast and over the top. It's reeled in a little bit because it's a lot of different personnel than what was on Thundersteel. Excellent performances, exactly what you'd expect from Riot. A lot of really good songs. It's not without its hiccups. They do try to do a few tribute to Mark type songs. And I understand that, that they wanted to do something, for him. Those songs, feel just, a little, they're certainly not bad, and I don't want to say corny. That comes across the wrong way, but maybe like they're a little bit forced. It's like, okay, yes, we get it. It's a song about Mark and he's passed on and you're really hitting that on the head here. We all know it and we're all sad about it. But they do that on at least 2 of the tracks on here. And the track order gets a little weird. I think it would have been better to have one of those like as the closing track, make that, the last statement of the album. Yeah, but instead, one of the really obvious ones is several tracks away from the ending. So it's just kind of sandwiched in the middle of the album, which feels like a weird place for it. The album maybe runs a little short on ideas towards the end. It's 12 tracks. It's a relatively long album. I felt like it would have been, much, tighter package overall if they kept it to about 9 or 10 tracks. But yeah, I tend to feel that way about a lot of albums, so that's probably just me. But if nothing else, it was, proof of concept. They did what they needed to do. They got another good vocalist with Todd Michael Hall. They, kept, most of the rest of the lineup intact. And they showed they could put out a very quality album in the Riot tradition, even though Mark, wasn't with us anymore. So, that alone got it, pretty high marks. And as I said, they've done 2 more since then, if you count the one coming out in April. So they're not being overly prolific with new material. They've been doing a lot of archival material that they had from, Mark's years in the band, which is cool for fans and collectors for sure. But yeah, Riot Mark V got on the map, and they did exactly what they needed to do. They put out a really solid album. They paid their respects to Mark, and they laid the groundwork for them to move on.
All right. Well, hopefully I have one here that no one picked. I don't think anybody was going to pick this one. And I don't necessarily love this record, but I respect it for the creative twist of it, and I really like the debut album. But the long-awaited Planet Satan, the second album from Norway's Mysticum.
Oh, yeah.
This, In the Streams of Inferno, I loved that record. It was probably one of the coldest Norwegian albums. It had that industrial drum machine vibe, cold, calculating. This album here, after years and years and years and years of talk, how they were talking about Planet Satan shortly after when Streams came out. So it's been in the works for a while. The band kind of fell apart. They're back together. This is Mysticum taking their cold, calculated industrial black metal and infusing it with EDM. So this is more electronic dance music, more pulsating, thumping beats. It sounds, but what really sells it is to see them live. They have invested in this massive video wall system where there's 3 of them. They each stand on these pillars. The pillars are video screen. The background is video screen. The music is perfectly in time with the light show that scrolls across. It's so cool. It is so cool. But this here is interesting. It's not one I grab for a lot. I'm always going to grab for the debut and some of the demo, like the Piss Off demo and stuff like that. But this here, it's solid. They haven't really put out a full length since then. They're not a prolific trio. But I figured this was worth talking about. Long time in the making. It's on Peaceville. Good stuff. If you're a little more open-minded and you like some EDM mixed in with your black metal. Thorns, I think, is more Wade. Thorns is more. It's not electronic dance music. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of big pulsating beats on this record. So be ready. You could tell they did a lot of psychedelic drugs and started composing, but good stuff.
It sounds like a tough sell, honestly.
It's weird. Don't run out and buy it. Listen to it first. I don't know
how I feel about that one. That sounds good. I'm still getting used to Sam L doing like that Eternal album is one that I have, and that one is I gotta wrap my head around that one first, I guess.
Yep, that's fair. Yeah, I have not heard that one by Mtic Come, so
it's not as the first one is cold black metal, really cool. I love In the Streams of Inferno, but this was kind of like, oh wow, it's really dancey, but I appreciated the talent of it and the fact that they tried to move the ball forward into a different realm. It's interesting for that alone.
Just when you say EDM, I just think like glow sticks and pulsating lights and stuff. And
it's kind of there,
that's
man.
The furthest from black metal. So I don't think I'm picking up what
you've got. Down. They do have a couple songs on here where it's more of like a punk shouting style vocally, but still the one vocalist, the big guy, he's got a real acidic, hateful screech to his vocals. That remains on here. So I don't know.
Weird.
All right, Logan.
All right, so my number 4 of the year, I gotta see if I can hold this right to present it. Can we?
Oh, we're not worried
Huh?
about it. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, cool. Look. It's all there. There's tits and a dick. We're
There you go.
representing everything. Sorry. So this didn't age well, truthfully. This is Lord Mantis with their album Death Mask. So,
Huh.
have you guys ever heard Lord Mantis or listened to him?
That has been in the used bin, and I've heard you talk about the band, so I've it's one of those, I'm like, maybe I'll buy that today, but it never quite has made the shopping cart, so I'm interested to hear what you say here.
I wonder why no one's picked it up. Goodness.
But I think they have the price sticker strategically placed.
Yes, they did indeed. It was a nice big hype sticker for sure.
Yeah. I wish. Yeah.
So yeah, I did make a video kind of detailing I guess this is like Oscar the Grouch kind of detailing
Randy's lost sister right there. Or sister, brother, whatever, you know.
Her name is Stephanie, and she's very proud of her heritage.
Yep.
Yeah, so I made a video detailing this little mini subgenre, I wanted to call it extreme sludge or death sludge or whatever, where to me it's one of the most like angry and pissed off kinds of music I could find back in 2014, and honestly it still holds up like that to this day. I would put Primitive Man in there. I'd put Indian in there. Dragged into Sunlight, I'd throw them in there in that category as well. Lord Mantis might be my favorite. They are dominated by the riff. There is just some real pulverizing, just riff and drum combos, and God, it's just a relentless album of like self-loathing. It really just, it gets under your skin, kind of like. I know you guys talked about Today Is the Day on Album Club a bit ago. It makes me think of the album Temple of the Morning Star.
Yep.
Of that one, because that one has like the man who likes to hurt himself and stuff like that. It's got just a feeling of, I call it's like the Downward Spiral by 9 Inch Nails kind of vibe to it, and this one has it. And there's some industrial elements as well. Honestly, check out the title track, Death Mask. You can't go wrong. It's an amazing song. Track 1, Body Choke, is killer too. And then 3 Crosses, the final song, is just pulverizing, but in a more like drawn out Funeral Doom kind of vibe. And it really gets melodic and kind of beautiful towards the end, and just sends the album off perfectly. I think Lord Mantis is a band that's kind of drifting off into the ether, not getting talked about as much as they should.
Never even heard of them. Yep.
Yeah, and so Charlie Fell, the vocalist, man, he has one of the gnarliest vocals. Maybe you heard him on Cobalt's most recent album, Slow Forever, because he was the vocalist on that album, which I also highly recommend that. If
the only Cobalt I own is Gin, and I love that record. I love
Gin
that
is killer
record
too.
It's a great record.
Slow Forever, you might like. It's like a double album, so it's a bit more ambitious and kind of drawn out, but God, it's visceral too, and just as good as this album. So, yeah,
right on.
Lord Mantis.
Yep. I tell you what, Logan. Next time I'm at that store, if they still have it, I'm going to buy it. But if I end up on some kind of list, I'm blaming you.
Slip. Just when you slip it to the guy at the register, just give it to him like this,
have to go in wearing a raincoat, and dark glasses or something.
Like, who was that guy?
Yeah, unfortunately, they know me at that store, so there may be issues. But no, it's one I've been considering giving a chance. So next time I go there, I'll pick it up. You have sold me on giving it a try.
It's worth it.
All right, Alen.
All right, another top album from the year. This would be in the top 5. Would be the second album from Horrendous, Ecdysis. This band, had some, South Carolina roots. Has relocated to Philly. Had the ontological Mysticum album that Mysterium album that Logan mentioned earlier. But yeah, this was their second album, and it was a big step forward from their debut. I really like the debut album, The Chills. I know for some people it's kind of, just another death metal album. It wears its influences on its sleeves a lot, but I thought they did it extremely well, especially for that time. But yeah, this album already shows the band quickly, moving in a more progressive direction. It still has, plenty of death metal meat on the bone, but they're doing a lot of more interesting song structures and stuff. The lead track on this, The Stranger, is one of my favorite songs by the band. It's just got, a really cool vibe, very neat arrangement to it. And it tells you right off the bat that, yes, this is not going to be a straightforward death metal album the way The Chills was. It's, they're definitely, in a way, they kind of follow the trajectory of death, starting out, with something, very good but basic, and then kind of, rapidly evolving away from that, album after album after album. So, yeah, this one, this was not my introduction to the band, I don't think. I'm not sure which one was at this point. Regardless, this one, I don't love every song on it, but the good numbers are just almost jaw-droppingly good on here. So it definitely set me up. It is a band, unfortunately, I've had trouble keeping up with. As they've gotten more and more progressive, they've kind of drifted a little bit, out there for my tastes. I've had a hard time wrapping my head around Ontological Mysterium from last year. It's like, it's talented. There's interesting stuff happening here. I just can't quite figure out how to digest the stuff they've done on their last couple of albums. Whereas, the stuff, on albums like, 1, 2, and even the third album, those kind of, hit, a really sweet spot. Well, but I guess actually several sweet spots because each one's pretty different from the other. So, yeah, Horrendous was definitely already starting to go places even by their second album here in 2014. Ignisis is a really cool one if you're only familiar with their newer stuff and you want to hear what they were doing earlier. This album still has enough, progression to it that you'll probably like it. If you go all the way back to The Chills, you got to expect, really just a much more straightforward, romp and old school death metal. All right, Marty, I'll pass it over to you and catch up on some of the comments here.
All right. Well, I'm going to keep it drum machine based for this next one because Godflesh deserves the love. A world lit only by fire. This is a reunion album. They came back with, was it this one? Is this their comeback album? No.
I do not know. I'll check for you real quick while you talk about it.
It's,
oh, wait, that is their comeback one.
It is?
Is that what you asked? Yeah, I believe so.
I think you're right. It is the comeback album. But I will say there's a couple different eras of Godflesh. There's drum machine driven, and they also had Ted Parsons on drums for a while on Songs of Love and Hate, and I think he was on Hymns as well. I could be wrong. I could be talking up my ass there, but I prefer drum machine Godflesh. I like the cold, calculating, repetitive plot of this band. It's just it's a hammer that sees the world as a nail is what it reminds me of. Sonically, this is a hammer. And they got back together. They're right back with the drum machine. They haven't really faltered from that. It's really solid. I'm a little later to getting this. I've finally filled in all the holes in my Godflesh collection. There's eventually going to be a deep dive on here. I don't know how or where it's going to be or who it's going to be with. Maybe Matt, but I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, I appreciate this band. I don't love all their stuff, but I respect all their stuff. And the stuff I do like of theirs, I really, really, really like. So this is one of the good ones for sure. And check it out if you're into plotting, repetitive, drum machine driven brutality. Definitely cool. Logan.
All right, cool. So number 5 of the year for 2014. And this is gonna be the last one that I'm going by my list, and this is what I had on my pick. Insomnium with Shadows of the Dying Sun. So yeah, this was
it's a good band.
a great band, and I don't know. For some reason, this one really clicked with me. Some of the stuff that I had heard from them before hadn't, like Above the Weeping World, and I think When It All Came Down. I think I'm saying that right. But this one did the trick. And honestly, maybe it's because there's a bit more of like clean singing in here, a bit more of like goth influence or that catatonia influence just creeping in. Yeah, this one does it for me, and so far this is my favorite Insomnium album. I haven't really dove too much into their other releases outside of the one that came after this, The Winter's Gate. That's killer concept album, and then Above the Weeping World is great too. But there's something about like the dynamics and the flow of this album that just works really well. The songs with the clean singing on it, like Lose Tonight, the Promethean song, and then the title track really helped to break up the more intense, like truly melodic death metal tracks like Black Heart Rebellion and Ephemeral and stuff like that. So I don't know, a real good balance on here. A good sad boy album too. This probably fit right along with Pallbearer as my soundtrack to walking to and from class with a heavy backpack laden with books, So, yeah. Pick number 5.
Right on. I don't know if I have that one or not. The cover is really familiar. I'd have to go dig. I haven't listened to Insomnium in a long time. I should. It's a good band.
Out of the 5 that I had, the top 5, this was the one that I've listened to the least. Like since 2014. Like all the other ones, they would have their time in the sun where I'd be like, oh yeah, I remember this album, Mm-hmm. And this one, it's probably been years since I actually heard it. I pulled it out the other day to listen, and thankfully it went well with all the rain that we've been getting.
Right. Here. Okay, Alen.
All right. Yeah, Insomnium, I've heard a little bit here and there, but yeah, not a band I've ever dived into, but I always hear good things about them. I said it was kind of a power metal year, and we'll keep going with that. Germany's Storm Warrior released their 5th album, Thunder and Steel. And it's another really good album by a very good band.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's only one of them that I think's maybe a little average, but this one's quite strong. This one saw the band change directions at least a little bit more noticeably. Most everything before this, was very much in the Halloween camp. Really doing a lot of Walls of Jericho worship early, and kind of sticking to that mold, just with Vikings instead of pumpkins. Okay, that works. This one is not that they're radically changing their sound, but you hear more influences from other German bands included. There's a lot more like early running Wild on this album compared to ones they had done before this, for example. So it kind of, gives them a slightly different feel, which is a good thing. Bands like this, if you're not careful, it can feel like they're just making the same album time after time after time, especially when you're not only playing, fast power metal, but you've got a lyrical theme that's very consistent. Yeah, I know several years ago, Marty and I, tried to work out just exactly how many times they used the word Odin, sword, or Valhalla in a song title.
They say warrior.
Or warrior. Yeah, I think those 4 words.
Take
Odin,
a sip.
Yeah.
It was Odin, warrior, sword, and Valhalla. Put them together, it was something like 46 of their song titles have one of those 4 words in it. It was absolutely nuts. So it was nice to see them play to a little bit of a different style of German power metal, just to make sure this album felt different from the ones around it. They're overdue for another album. It's now 5 years since their last one, and the last one was one of their best. So, guys, you're on the clock here. Where's the next Storm Warrior album? Always an annoying band to collect because they never get U.S. distribution, so you're always stuck paying ridiculous prices. They're one of the few bands I will just shut up and pay the $25 for.
That's exactly what it is. I have like 4 or 5 of their CDs, and each one costs like $25.
Yeah,
before shipping.
I've paid through the nose to get their stuff. Most bands, I'm just like, you know what? I just want to download it from Bandcamp. or I'll wait until someone in the US finally distributes it. Storm Warrior, it really is just a shut up and take my money kind of band.
Yep.
Excellent German power speed metal. Vocals, very kind of rough. If you like Kai Hansen's vocals, you'll like Storm Warrior's vocals. If you hate Kai Hansen's vocals, this is not the band for you. You just keep right on going, and we'll find somebody else for you to listen to instead.
Yep.
So, yes, Thunder and Steel from Storm Warrior. That would round out my top 5 from 2014. And so, with that, we'll let Marty take a turn.
Bloodbath, out with Michael Ackerfeld and in with Nick Holmes from Paradise Lost, doing what he used to do very well, and that is doing the death growls. It was good to hear him on this doing that when I wasn't super familiar with the newer Paradise Lost stuff where he was starting to do that again. I finally came around and got into that as well. But this record, I don't remember. It seems like it got a bit of a buzz, but I thought this record was great. The songs on it are really solid. I like it better than Fathomless Mastery. Fathomless Mastery was just a little too Morbid Angel-y. Vocals or the lyrics weren't great. I don't know. But this record to me was just more solid. They kind of avoided the Morbid Angel influence. Just went with sick old Sweet Death with HM2, of course. 11 songs, all of them are good. Nick Holmes sounds great. I don't know if he sounds as brutal as he did back in the day, but he's still got it. He's still got that rattle in his throat. It's good. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys? Were you guys involved in this one when it came out?
Nope, was not.
The second one from after that. The arrow of Satan is drawn or whatever.
Oh, with the baby carriage and the bugs climbing. Yeah.
That was a creepy album cover, by the way. But yeah,
very creepy. Yeah.
And I did really like that one. I
dig it.
I don't know.
think it's really solid.
The vocals are cool, but man, it's tough to go from Ackerfeld and even Takrin to Nick's a bit more reserved.
I think the Takrin album is kind of overlooked. Nightmares Made Flesh. It's a great record. It's so
we were
good.
Originally talking about doing 2004, right? And that was the one I was most excited about to potentially talk.
Yeah, Bastard Son of God. What an awesome song.
Yep. Cancer of the Soul.
Oh, that whole album is great. Mm-hmm. Great. Banger after banger. So good.
But no, that's a good
Oh my God, Melanie doesn't like that album? Holy crap.
Wait. Does she love death metal? Are we sure?
Melanie likes death metal.
She's okay with it.
Melanie thinks death metal is okay.
Melanie's so on death metal. Melanie's very medium on death metal.
Yeah. I'm surprised you don't like. I think it's a great record. I dig it. Anyway, Logan, you're back.
All right. So now going from my top list from back in the day, I just want to make sure we talk about some of like the bigger albums of the year. Just we gotta at least highlight the ones that made the big splashes. And this one is All Around Us currently. If you're looking, it took me a second to realize that that's where you placed it, Alen. But Once More Around the Sun by Mastodon. So I'm a huge Mastodon fanboy. They haven't released an album that I haven't liked, so I kind of have to mention that in the beginning before I dive in, because I know there's a lot of people who are, Mastodon started to suck after Crack the Sky or Leviathan or hell, even Remission, I've heard people say. So a lot of people jump off the boat before we get to this colorful little album right here. But yeah, this one is great, and it doesn't quite measure up to Crack the Sky and like Leviathan for me, but it's pretty close. And this actually helped me get back on board with Mastodon. So when The Hunter came out in 2011, that was their big departure from the ambitious prog epics of Crack the Sky. And I still really have never clicked with that album, The Hunter. It's just very disjointed, and it sounds like they're writing for 4 different bands for 4 different albums. And this one, I think they found the magic again. I don't know. It just all kind of comes together, and I think this is what they were trying to make with The Hunter. It's it's a pop album at places. I mean, they definitely mastered the pop hook. Some of their catchiest songs and some of metal's catchiest songs are on here. I'm looking at Tread Lightly, The Motherlode. A lot of people hate that song because of how catchy it is. Ember City, for example. But then there's still like some of their more adventurous and kind of just crazy off the wall songs too, like Chimes at Midnight, Aunt Lisa, Diamond in the Witch House, which features a Neurosis guy, I guess I won't mention on vocals. But and then there's still some killer riffs on here, like Halloween, track 10. Not Halloween, unfortunately. But still, that's a great song too. So I was happy to welcome Mastodon back after the Hunter with this one. And to me, they haven't had a misstep since. So I don't know. I'm definitely one of my favorite bands. Did a
Really
deep
kinda
dive
hard
on
to go
my
wrong.
channel. Yeah,
It's real hard to go wrong with a drummer like Brian Daler. I mean, that guy is just amazing.
He's like, and he was able to master like kind of being a little more back in the pocket for some of these like more poppy songs, but still they're impressively performed. You know, like he got like when you listen to Remission or Leviathan, it's crazy just how many snare rolls and stuff are in those albums. But this one, they feature impressive drum performances, but then at the same time, it's perfectly reserved so the dude can sing as well. He can do it all.
All right.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting to hear about that one because, yeah.
Do you guys like that band at all? Or is that one of those bands where could be a generational thing, maybe? I don't know.
I have their first. I have Leviathan and the EP, early EP. I saw they played here in Traverse City early on with Nebula and Clutch.
Oh, that sounds cool. Yeah,
it was cool. It was early on in their career. It was a bigger venue here in town, which occasionally got cool bands, and they were great. Absolutely great. I saw Brand play with Today's the Day 4 times. Man. Especially on that Today's the Day, In the Eyes of God material. He just absolutely devastating live, crushing live. And he doesn't break a sweat. He's just sitting there doing his thing. It's like, whatever.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I've tried to get into Mastodon a couple of times and never quite have. And actually, it's the drumming that's the problem for me. Because of what you just said, Logan. With those early albums, he's wanting to, to me, it always feels like he wants to play lead drums all the time. And if there's a surefire way to get me to turn an album off, it's to have the drummer take front and center stage and play lead drums. I just don't enjoy that in heavy metal. So the fact that you're saying on this one, he's kind of sitting back in the pocket a bit more, doing his cool stuff, but not trying to dominate the sound.
So the songs can actually breathe. Yeah.
Yeah. That might be an album I would like more. I never had anything against the band, but yeah. I know I tried Leviathan. I know I had Blood Mountain. Somebody got it for me for Christmas one year. And yeah, it's just like, it's like, I know you're talented, dude, but will you just stop fucking playing every second and let somebody else get a note in edgewise? It really irks me when drummers want to take over an album. We get it. You're talented. We get it. You can do cool stuff. There's supposed to be a song here, not a album length drum solo. So yeah, it was always, and yeah, just a pet peeve of mine. Other folks dig them, and that's absolutely cool. But it kind of hits me the right way that okay, maybe he didn't always do that. There were albums where he kind of settled back a bit. Cool, good to know.
With age comes wisdom, maybe.
I think something I think you do see though with like a lot of super talented musicians, they do go through a phase where they really do feel the need to show off, that they've got to make everything long, intricate, complex, really over the top. But a lot of those artists do get to a point when they realize, you know what? Sometimes less is more. We don't have to do that every time out. And we've already done it. We can actually now reel it in a lot, still make really interesting music without 32 separate time changes and 47 separate parts and all this kind of stuff. I mean, you see it in Rush's catalog, and everybody who wants to be Rush, they go through those same kind of transitions. So
it's funny you mentioned that, Alen. I see that in Horrendous's most recent album, Ontological Mysterium. So
oh, okay.
try
You think
it
they kinda,
again with like, because it's only like 37, 38
yeah,
minutes
it's not a
with the
long
whole, like,
album.
yeah. And the
Yeah, so you
songs
think they would
don't go
kind of
past the 5 or
yeah,
5
you think
minute
they kind
mark.
of reeled that one in from what was the one before
Idol.
the Idol?
And Idol didn't click with me. So I felt like they did.
Yeah, I couldn't quite get into Idol either, but yeah, I'm going to give the new one another chance. I just have not circled back around to it yet. But yeah, okay. Interesting take.
All right, you're up, Alen.
All right. We'll go with some nice, dirty German death occult metal. Necros Christos did 9 Graves, which is technically an EP. It's listed as an EP. It's 40 minutes long, which is album length in my book. But Necros Christos also always does this thing where, like, every other song is like a 2-minute instrumental interlude. So maybe they were thinking that there's not quite enough full-length songs on here to pass it off as an album. I'm not sure why it gets the EP designation. If you know this band, you have a good sense of what this is going to sound like. Yes, they've got all those little gates, as they call them, for most of their interludes, where they have a lot of like Eastern influences in the melodies and stuff. And then the main songs kick in, and it's got a very kind of subterranean, raw, pounding kind of old school death metal vibe to it. There's a Hellhammer, early Celtic Frost influence, of course. The vocals, very deep, kind of going for this kind of chanting and intonation type thing. They play up the occult vibe quite a bit. They always did. I always liked this band, and it was kind of an odd one for me to stumble on when they came out. Because like I said, this wasn't a period late aughts into the 2010s where I paid attention to a lot of this kind of stuff. For whatever reason, this one got in front of me, and yeah, kind of liked it. The EP, if anything, actually may sound a little bit better than the album that precedes it, Doom of the Occult, which is another one I think y'all did on Album Club, did you not, Marty?
Yep.
Yeah, I like Doom of the Occult, but it's not one I replay much.
The one before that is their magnum opus, the Triumph
Impurity Rights is the one, most folks know.
God, is it good?
And really love. And it is a good one. This is quite good too. The thing that maybe sets this one off a little bit is it just sounds a little snappier than Doom of Occult. The production's a little stronger. The songs are just slightly catchier so that it doesn't all muddle together after a bit. Maybe the shorter length, helps a bit too. That, they come in, they do some good songs, and it's over, rather than having another 20 minutes that you sit through before you get to the end. But yeah, good EP. It's getting close to the end of this band's discography. They had one more full length after this, and I think that might have been it. So yeah, they were definitely still doing some really strong material, even after the first 2 albums. So if you like the band and you passed on this one, 9 Graves, you do get 40 solid minutes in the band style, but a little bit stronger than even what you get on some of the albums.
All right. Here's one that came out on Blood Music. I had these guys drunk in my basement before. They're from Michigan. Efing, Southern Michigan band. This is Against This Wield. I don't know exactly. I'm assuming that's Gaelic. I have no idea. But this is great. 3-song EP. Well, it's 35 minutes long. Really solid atmospheric, a bit of a Bathory influence in here. Really good atmospheric metal from Michigan in a style that I really, really like. It has a lot of atmosphere to it. Kind of a woodsy vibe. Would have loved to have these guys on Binder. And I'm told I talked to Tim somewhat, last year. He said they were farting around again. So we'll see. They're not a very prolific band at all. I know Fritz has had a bunch of kids, and Tim and his wife had kids. So, family took precedence over band projects. But I think this is their one and only release that ever came out. And it was a band with a lot of promise. It would have been interesting to hear a proper full-length from these guys. But yep, Eefing Against His Wield, very good 3 songs on here. Check them out. It should be online to find. I don't know how readily available this album is. It might be available probably. Blood Music doesn't tend to skimp on pressing, so it's probably available on eBay or Discogs. You could find it.
Yeah,
But check it out.
That's a good pick, Marty. I had that one because I really liked Blood Music back in the day because they would put all of their music on Bandcamp for name your own price. I don't know if it's still like that right now. People should check to see. But I listened to that only digitally, but that was a good album. And
it's good.
I kind of miss Blood Music. I think they might have overdid it with a certain Emperor box set, but
holy crap! I don't know how he afforded to do that, but
maybe he couldn't. I don't know. Are they still putting stuff out?
No, I think they're done. That label is done. He also did some Devin Townsend stuff, and good mix of stuff.
He did a lot of cool stuff. I miss that label. But
all right, you're up, Logan.
All right, I'm done with the Rolling Rocks. I need an IPA. So
yuck.
I need some tree water, some pine cones in my beer.
Yeah, it looks like just following up. It is still on Bandcamp, and yes, Logan, you're right. It still is like you'll buy digital album, name your price. So yep, guys, anybody that's interested in checking out, it's IFING.
Yep, Eefing or effing. I can't remember the exact pronunciation of it, but yeah.
We'll just add it to the old Bandcamp wish list while I'm looking at it.
Good stuff.
And all of their stuff is like, I think you guys have heard Xanthocroid. Starts with the X. They're like a symphonic, like black metal band, also on Blood Music. So I would recommend them too, if possible. But yeah, so another bigger album, and especially big for me from 2015. I'm repping the shirt over here, from the tour that I was able to see. We got Serpent and the Sphere by Agalok, and of course this was their final release before kind of a awkward and not very acrimonious split. Like it was it definitely hit the metal TMZ tabloids, unfortunately. But they're doing better now. They're touring, they're on festivals, they're on certain YouTube talk shows, gas mask and hand grenades together.
Yep. Absolutely.
So I'm glad they're back. But yeah, so this is their final farewell, maybe. But it's a good one. And I made a post on my Instagram yesterday about this being their weakest album. I mean, and it is, but it really only is because of the albums that preceded it. Agalok might be my all-time favorite band. I think three out of their 5 albums are perfect. I mean, I can't think of too many other bands in my mind that have 3 perfect albums. So when you release an album like this, it's tough to measure up to The Mantle and Pale Folklore and Ashes Against the Grain. So, but this one is still good in its own right. It succeeds with maybe a bit more of that Wolves in the Throne Room vibe. I don't know if anyone who's listening to this picks up on that at all, but it does make me think of that more Two Hunters kind of vibe. It's a solid 8 out of 10 album. I think Wade and I were talking about this. It's definitely that's the rating for it. It's got a great drum performance by Aesop, who played drums on this one and their previous one, Marrow of the Spirit. Some songs on here that make this absolutely worth listening. Dark Matter Gods, track 4. The final track, Plateau of the Ages, which is where they go the most like post-metal with it, definitely works as well. And then honestly, the lead single, Celestial Effigy, is great too. Once again, kind of carried by Aesop with just a really good performance on the hi-hat. So, but yeah, great album. I was able to see him live touring for this, and it was the one time I saw him, and I don't know, it was amazing. To this day, it's my favorite live performance was seeing Agalok. But Yeah, love this band.
Right on.
Yep. Yeah, very cool band. That's the one album I never could get into though. And
Which makes sense. It's
I didn't care for Morrow either.
I like
Yeah.
Morrow.
I like
Yeah, I know
Morrow
it's-
too, but it's a different band.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, something on that album, and I never really could figure out why, but there was just something about that album. Yeah, it was another one I got, digitally when it came out, and just yeah. For some reason it never would sink in.
It doesn't really try anything, like
Mhm.
the other albums are always trying. They're pushing an envelope over here, or they're pushing the envelope over there. Like even Morrow was so much more intense, and
Yeah.
and even like the final song on Morrow was like what had like string arrangements and stuff in it, and this one just felt a bit more tamed and I guess dumbed down, in comparison to me, and a bit more like what the contemporaries were doing versus Agalock being the one leading the contemporaries.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, Logan. It didn't sound special. It didn't sound like they were right there, on the cutting edge anymore. It was like, this is okay, but other bands are doing things more interesting at that time.
All right, Alen.
All right. Are we ready for some more power metal?
Woo!
Damn well better be, because it's going to keep happening. We'll switch over to, so this is one, again, found on the, digital platform I was subscribing to back then, eMusic. Knew nothing about this band. It was very much a case of, I've got money I have to use this month. And that was a downside to eMusic. You had to use the money within a certain period of time or it would, evaporate. So you had to buy something, which did sometimes, poke you to, give some new things a try. I had never heard of this band, but it had the right look and it worked out pretty well. It's a band from France called Lone Wolf. Now that name has been used by more than a few metal bands. Let's just leave it at that. But this is the French one. The album's called Cult of Steel. So you got a werewolf there. And Jack, I'm sorry, it's not a lightning axe this time, but it is a flaming sword. So kind of keeping with, the highly charged cutlery, more or less. This is very simple to describe. This is a band that really wants to be early Running Wild. They are very much taking those first 3 or so Running Wild albums, and that's their sound. They're going to do that. And it worked fairly well at the time because, around 2014, Running Wild didn't want to be Running Wild. They Running Wild hit some rough waters there for a few years. So that did open up, a bit of a lane there for bands like Blazing Stone and bands like Lone Wolf here to kind of encroach in that territory a bit. They do this now quite well. If you just want, a really solid 80s sounding European power metal album, Cult of Steel will do it just fine. Is it an amazing album? No, it's not. They're not adding a whole lot new to the formula, of course. So if you are into this style, you've heard this before. You've heard it a bunch of times before. So it's far from anything essential. It's just one of those things, if you stumble into it and you're not expecting too much, you'll be like, oh, hey, that's pleasantly surprising. They're doing a very solid take on, the early Running Wild gig before Running Wild became, all pirates and history and, stuff like that. It's Running Wild sans the whimsy. Let's put it that way. Funny thing about this band too is this was actually like their 6th or 7th album. And I've checked, they're up to 10 albums at this point. I've never heard anyone talk about them. I've never seen one of their other albums, period, until I looked them up today or yesterday on Metal Archives because I wanted to talk about this one tonight. And I hadn't probably played this album since 2014. Yeah, purchased it, downloaded it, played it, stayed in the playlist for a few weeks. Again, it's a decent enough album. But then it got completely forgotten, moved on, and yeah, but when Logan said 2014, I'm like, I wonder if that's about the time the Lone Wolf album came out that I bought. And sure enough, it turned out to be. So yeah, if you're looking for just again, a sort of generic but good early Running Wild clone. You can certainly do worse than Running Wild. I've heard that some of their later albums, just skimming the reviews for them, they got away from that a little bit. They stopped copycatting Running Wild quite so strongly. So newer albums may sound a little different. They do have stuff posted on Bandcamp, but there's some of the saddest Bandcamp pages I've ever seen. It's just, buy digital album, and yeah, there's like no sound clips to listen to really. There's not much of a description about anything. They don't even have the little button under the album cover that says add to like wish list, the little heart symbol. They don't even have that. It's like, buy it now. You can't save it and come back
All
later.
or nothing, baby. All or nothing.
It's like they don't want fans.
It almost is. And it's something I've noticed about European power metal bands in particular. I feel they don't quite do Bandcamp correctly. They have a tendency to want too much for their albums. Like I'm looking at it right now. There's a Lone Wolf album here. It's $9.99. This is like, no, I don't want to pay $10.
Give me a damn CD for that munch,
Yeah, throw in $2 and I want to get the disc. I'd much rather do that.
Europe coddles their artists too much.
Maybe.
Hot take. I'm joking.
No. It could be just something. It could be a cultural difference kind of thing.
Yeah.
But even if you don't if you're going to overcharge me for the MP3s, even if you're not going to have, actually there's no physical media purchase option here. It's just buy the damn MP3s. You could at least let me click the stupid little heart button. So I'd be like, not today.
Maybe
Maybe
later.
I'll come back to it. Without the little heart button. I forgot about this band for 10 years. Do you think I'm going to remember this next month on Bandcamp Friday? No. Put the damn heart on your page.
That's probably why you only have one versus 4 of these albums?
Probably, yeah. With that little heart, there's at least be 2, 3, maybe 4. Without it,
I hope you're listening, Flaming Jackal. What was their band name?
Flaming Jackal is a much better Lone Wolf. I'm pretty sure this is
Wolf. Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be a werewolf. There's at least one song that has about werewolves, so I'm guessing that's the art for the werewolf concept. But yeah, Lone Wolf. I'm sure you're listening. You're French, so maybe there's a language barrier. Maybe you don't get the little. We're not just doing this because we love your album and it is kind of cool, but put this on Bandcamp right here, heart hands. Then we click it. Then we come back and buy it.
Do the hard hands. I just want to punch you in the face.
I tell you what.
I love you, but I still want to punch you for doing it.
I tell you, Lone Wolf. I'll make a deal with you. Next time I check your Bandcamp page, and God knows when that's going to be, if you have added the heart, I will buy the album. There you go. You want my $10? All you got to do is go into the settings and add that little heart button.
Alen throws down the Flaming Jackal.
Sounds like easy money to me.
I'm making it as easy as I can for him, Logan. Right there, $10 US. In France, that's got to be worth
that's
at
like
least
15.
Hey, it's got to be. Yeah, it's a good exchange rate on the euro right now. I mean, I'm giving it away, but I want that damn heart button there. No excuses. All right, Marty. I'll calm down about the missing heart button while we talk about an album.
Well, I'm staying in France. We're staying in France for this one,
Cool,
and this is a band I never hear anybody talk about, and their stuff is really quite good. This is Darkenhold with their third album, Castellum. It came out in 2014. This is the last album I've bought by this band. They have 2 more after it. They were on Those Opposed Records. And the album after this is a self-released, and the album after that is on some French label. So it's a band that just hasn't gotten a lot of traction, even though they're 5 albums deep at this point. But Darkenhold, this is, if you look on the Bandcamp, the Metal Archives, it says, castles, medieval, fantasy are the themes. And, you even got a guy here in a cape. So standing next to a castle. So yes, first listen, there is a definite, people have kind of dropped the castle metal term. throw that set of adjectives around to describe bands, this could definitely fall into that category, castle metal. It's black metal at its core, typically of the slower variety, more mid-pace variety, but with very very melodic riff structures that have a flow and a bounce to them. This is a really good record. In fact, I haven't listened to it in a while. When I saw it on the list, I'm like, oh crap, yeah. And so I pulled it on and listened to it today, and it's still good. It holds up. It's a band that just never got their due. So I don't know if they might be sketch. I have no idea. I haven't looked. So, but they're French. More pictures of them in front of castles with battle axes and whatnot. So this is, if you've never heard of Dark and Hold, check these guys out. This album in particular, Castelum, 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 can't talk. The White Claws are starting to sneak into my vocabulary a little bit, but great record. Check them out. Dark and Hold.
I have never heard of them.
So
it's good. It's a good album.
Mtic Come, Castle Come, is that it?
Mystic Come.
Angel Come?
Angel
Come.
No.
Angel Come is working on their debut album. Yep.
But now you know what direction to take the album cover in, so that's good.
Right, exactly. All right. You are back, Logan.
For the next pick, for anyone who knows me, I have to talk about this band. It's like, for Marty, there's Halloween. For Alen, I guess there's The Seal and Riot. For me, it's Mike Scheidt and Yob. So I gotta pull the plug on, or talk about Yob, which it got featured in the thumbnail. So Alen, I appreciate that.
I thought about pulling it, but it seemed like a Logan pull. So I'm just like, nope, he'll cover that base.
Well, you were 100% right. Absolutely. Yob is one of the most consistent and one of my favorite bands for sure. Right up there with Agalok for me. Just one of the heaviest and slowest three pieces you can find out of Oregon area. They play such a unique brand of just naturalistic sounding stoner doom that almost borders on funeral doom at times. It's really entirely a unique sound. This is actually one of my least favorite of their albums. If you watch a certain stream that I did with Jeff and Kellen over on the Gas Mask and Hand Grenades channel, I believe this was like this was their favorite Yob album on that. But this was like towards the bottom, and it's just a bit too long for me. It doesn't feature like a song that really grabs you as much as their other ones. Still, the closing track, Morrow, is beautiful. It's a bit more stripped down by Yob standards and is almost like a ballad. It's the Yob ballad. It's absolutely gorgeous. There's a acoustic version of it on YouTube that Mike does for Revolver. I believe it's on the Revolver YouTube channel, which, yeah, same vibe, gives you goosebumps. The other song I want to highlight is Nothing to Win. That's the more balls to the wall kind of speed and sludgy Yob. But this band is phenomenal. If you ever get the chance to see them live, please do it. That's where it happens. That's where the magic is. Yob is in the live experience. It's, it's hard to talk about them, seeing them live without sounding like a pretentious person talking about, some borderline religious thing. So I'll leave it at that. See them live if you can. I absolutely love this album. And on a side note, this was Rolling Stone's #1 metal album of the year, I believe, and it was featured on their overall top albums of the year list too. So I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but we'll take it.
I remember that one, ranking pretty high on some of those kind of year-end lists.
Simon's making me nervous in the chat. My cat's sabotaging me. One sec.
All right.
Yeah, good pull, Logan. I have not played that album in ages, so been a long time.
Do you like some of their other albums that they have? Like,
I'm trying to remember if I've heard any of their other albums. I'm sure I've had.
I don't know if I've heard any Yob, to be honest.
I'm sure I've heard at least one other one, but I couldn't tell you which off the top of my head.
If you're not into like the stoner doom scene, it's it would make sense. It wouldn't cross your radar as much.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a scene I kind of like, but I never. I go into it in like very small doses. Like I'll get this, I'll get that, and kind of done for a while. But yeah, and that was another one. I discovered that one because again, e-music. End of the month, what you going to buy? That one looks interesting. Sure, $3. Let's use up the credits and see what it sounds like. Yeah, okay, it's kind of cool.
All right, what you got, Alen?
All right, I have got an album by High Spirits, or buddy Professor Black's, very popular kind of rock and roll outfit. You Are Here. I believe this is their second full length. And very good album. It's not the one I reach for most of the time. Now, I'll admit, I usually go for either the one right before this or the one right after it. But all his albums, with the High Spirits project, have been very similar. It's all what you're getting. The songs are always catchy. They're always very fun to listen to. So it really doesn't matter in a way which one you listen to because they're all going to be very good. But yeah, this one. Now I will say, not sure about this album cover. Yeah, I get, he usually goes for something. Yeah, this one will be a little, more simple to the point. But I think the real thing that bothers me here, it's just like the color scheme is just a little disarmingly close to chameleon. It's just lines instead of stripes. But
the PTSD that album gave you when it came out, all the money you paid for it, and it just let you so down.
The white background, there's a yellow stripe, a blue stripe, a green stripe, a red stripe.
But that has no big band horns on it, I'm fairly certain. So.
No. This album's good, for starters. But yeah, there's not much to say about it. If you know this band, you know exactly what you're getting with them. Last year's album that came out late in 2023, another really good one. It had one of his best songs in ages on that one with the opener. So High Spirits is just fun when you're in a bad mood or you just want something that's very fun and easy to listen to and digest. This is a great band to always check out. I'm really happy it's been a successful project for Chris. He's done a lot of cool bands over the years with Dawnbringer and other projects. This is, the one that's, obviously been the most successful for him, and kudos. It should be. Glad it is.
Yep.
I think the reason I did not check that album out when it came out was because of that album cover. I mean,
that's fair. Yeah, I mean, when you're busy buying albums,
design, unfortunately.
When you're busy buying albums, with transvestite angels on the cover, Logan, a bunch of colored lines just ain't gonna.
I became desensitized to maps, unfortunately.
That Lord Mantis probably desensitized you to lots of things.
I hit second puberty on that.
Oh, the possibilities.
Yeah. I'm dead inside now. I can't feel feelings.
Yep.
All right,
Marty. Show us something good.
Well, Simon mentioned this in the chat. Saturnian Poetry by Blut aus Nord. This is the last Blut aus Nord I've bought or even heard, to be honest. And I know I missed a lot, but this is basically him steering the project back to sound a bit more Scandinavian influenced. So there's even the album cover. The album cover has a very Norwegian, I guess, black metal. This is a Necrolord cover, I do believe, which is cool.
Yeah, it's a little different color scheme for him.
Yep, it's not blue like normal. It's a different color scheme for him, but shows he can work in other color palettes as well. But this is a really good record, and I think the highlights of Blut aus Nord for me are was it the Mystical Beast of Rebellion and there's another one, The Work That Transforms God. Those are just sick, twisted, disease sounding black metal records. This to me is a little bit more, like I said, a little more Scandinavian fueled. After that, I know I've heard Mord. I've heard the album Mort, and it sounded like the same song one after the other. I found it very dimensionless, but I know he's gotten way more nightmarish as he's gone on. But for 2014, this was a good one. I spun it quite a bit when this came out. I haven't followed up on it in a while. I've seen the cover. It makes me kind of want to spin it again, but it has been ages. But yeah, I've got all the albums leading up to this one. After that, I've completely fallen off the boat. Once he started putting mushrooms and all sorts of other stuff, I kind of realized it probably wasn't, I don't know, it's probably killer, but I need to be in the mood for nightmarish and challenging, and I'm not always. The work with Transforms God and the Beast of Rebellion, those things are just playing the riffs while you're bending the chords, or playing a chord tremolo style while you're bending it. It just gives the riffs this off-kilter, sickened feel, which I think he did so great. And a lot of bands copied him after that on that as well. Bands like Death Spell Omega, and I'm sure there's others as well. But those two albums are really, really great and twisted sounding records. This here is just good, sweet or Scandinavian black metal. Check it out if you have not heard it.
Yeah, I'm slowly making my way through their catalog. I have not gotten to that one.
Yeah, it's funny when you fell off. That's when I guess came on, because I enjoy their Disharmonium series so far.
I might like them. I just have. I don't need another band where I'm trying to track down 15 releases I miss. I've been in that realm here lately. So
that is that band. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. And you're back.
All right. Discuss a more underground album from 2014, which still got a lot of praise when it came out, and this band still receives a lot of praise. They just had an album come out last year, actually. Gotta mention them. Thantafactseth. I think I said that right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Sacred White
You
Noise.
just can't say that name without sounding like you've been punched in the mouth.
Yeah, whoa.
Thantafactseth, or you have a lisp.
To me, it always sounds like one of those medications they advertise on TV. I wasn't feeling right, so I went to my doctor, and he recommended Thantafactseth.
Side effects may include epilepsy, nausea,
and ED.
Especially ED. Yeah, this is a crazy off the wall album. It's honestly, I still don't know if it's actually clicked with me. It's one of those. It's kind of like that Gorguts Obscura, and just albums of that ilk, where you don't know if you're actually a fan of it, or you just like how weird and challenging it is, And back when you're in college and you're like, you got time and you're willing to dedicate attention, albums like that are fun. But when you don't have as much time and as much attention, I think they do less for you. And I have not really listened and clicked with this recently. So I think I tried to spin it like 6 months ago, and it didn't really grip me the same way it used to. And I did not click with their most recent one. What was that one called? Oh shit.
Yeah, I know. Now
I regret drinking IPA now.
Yeah, they got a lot of praise from folks last year. It was a bit dense for me, so I just kind of backed away slowly without making eye contact.
This one too. I mean, Hive Mind Necrosis.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah, Kellen reviewed that for the channel.
Yeah, it's a good album. Like I think if you can listen to it, or Narcosis. But yeah, and this one is too. It can be tough to get in the mood for this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing with Blue Dot Snort. I'm not in the mood for challenging all the time. Once in a while, maybe, but
I like that this Harmonium era was a little less challenging and a bit more of like a mood, like a horror movie kind of, because it wasn't as like crazy dissonant as the industrial stuff that I like. So that one was good, but yeah, Thantafactseth is a challenge for sure.
Yep. Yeah, it's like Marty said, they can be interesting albums, but if I have to check my calendar to carve out time to dedicate to an album, I'm just not going to play it very much, because that calendar is pretty full.
Yeah.
It's like, I could give it 72 minutes next Friday, but is that really going to be enough? No. Let's play some more Flaming Jackal instead.
Yeah,
If they have the heart button added.
If I have to get a compass and a protractor and a bunch of other implements to understand a song, if they're starting to make it a math problem, I'm not enjoying myself.
Alen, that band Flaming Jackal does have the heart. It's that other band that you like, Lone Wolf, that doesn't.
Yeah, there's some band out there. There probably is a band called Flaming Jackal, and they're probably wondering what the heck we're doing. I have checked in the interim. There are 3 Lone Wolf albums on Bandcamp. They all have the same shitty plain red background. They all cost $9.99, and none of them have the damn heart button.
Are they active still? Is it a band that's still together?
They put out an album in 2020, so Metal Archives lists them as active, I think, but Metal Archives lists almost everybody as active.
Yeah.
So they always have to take that with a grain of salt. But I don't think it said they'd split up. Let's double check. Lone Wolf. Yeah, it says they're still active. 10th album was a 2020 release. Are they on a label? They're on Massacre Records. Massacre. What is wrong with you?
Go to Massacre. Maybe you can get it. You can get the heart and all that stuff on the Massacre site. Maybe that's why they did it that way.
Could be.
The label is saying they can't contractually or whatever.
Great. Now I feel bad because I may have gotten the band in trouble.
You're barking up the wrong tree here, mister.
The Flaming Jackal's barking at the wrong tree. I'll look into that on the next interlude and see if, maybe Massacre is selling it as well.
Everybody look out for the Flaming Jackal Angel Come split coming out in 2025.
If we put it on Bandcamp, it's going to have a heart, damn it.
There'll be a heart, yes.
There will be a heart.
All right.
Angel Come may have several hearts. We'll have to see.
You never know.
Don't know. What I do know is what album I'm going to show next. Like Logan said, certain sort of bigger things we do want to touch base on. This band had done really well for itself up to this point. It's not that this album was bad, but it felt by this point the band had probably already peaked. And looking at it in hindsight, I think that's definitely fair. 2014 was Primordial, Where Greater Men Have Failed. And again, longtime fan of Primordial, like most of their albums, not all of them, but most of them. And this isn't a bad album for any reason, but it doesn't really hold up, to some of the ones they were doing 2 or 3 albums earlier. Those just always felt much stronger. This one, it feels a little bit like the guys, in the statue here. It feels a little tired. There's still some good songs on it. There's a couple of misfires. And it's one of those cases where, all right, you've been around for a while. You tried a couple of different styles early. You found one that worked. You did it really well. But, you've done it for several albums in a row. And so you start kind of running out of steam. The spark's just not quite there. The mean way of saying it, I guess, is you're stuck in a rut. The nicer way to say it is, oh, well, you're just kind of sticking to your lane. Either way you want to put it, it's kind of true with this album. So again, I don't mind it, but it's also, it's just not an essential one in their catalog. They've done this, and they've done it a bit better on some other albums, even though this isn't a bad album by itself. What's Simon saying? Last Primordial I Bothered Buying. That's, kind of, To the Nameless Dead was probably the last really, really strong one. And like Simon's thing says here, if you got it, there's nothing wrong with it. But did you need it? No, by this point, when you look at the Primordial CDs on your shelf, it's just like, you're most likely going to pick one of the other ones. And trying to remember, has the band had a better one since then? The album that came out last year, I wanted to like it, but it had some issues for me.
It was very samey.
It was very samey, but also it had a few other problems going on. There's a detailed review of it. Excuse me. On Heavy Metallurgy, if you really want to hear me pick it apart, you can do so. But was there one in between these two? Exile Amongst the Ruins. Yeah, it's kind of the same. So it feels like at this point, the band is not breaking any new ground, and don't quite have the spark. But again, sometimes you do a thing enough, and you're just not going to be able to keep it sounding fresh after so many attempts. So Primordial put out an okay album in 2014. But if you want the better Primordial material, you got to back up a few years, I think.
Right on. Well, let's do black metal again. Sweden's Nashheim with Solens Vemod. Their third album. No, their debut full length. Sorry, the stuff I have are splits. I had other records, but they're splits. This is their debut full length. It's atmospheric black metal with a bit of a depressive vibe to it. Really solid stuff. This came out on Northern Silence 10 years ago. They put out an album after this. It sounds a little bit more in the newer one sounds a little bit more in line with like Panopticon minus the folk Appalachia stuff. But yeah, I always liked this record. I liked all their stuff leading up to this, as a matter of fact. It's just really good atmospheric black metal. I don't know how much more to describe it. They don't blast all the time. And this album is actually 4 tracks with 3 very long songs over the... Here, I can tell you I have it up. Yep. The first 2 songs are over 13 minutes. The third song is over 11 minutes. The last song is 9 minutes. So you're in for a long... atmospheric journey on this record. Really good, solid stuff. Harsh vocals, a lot of emotion, well written. Even though the songs are long, they go somewhere. It isn't just a slog. That is Nashheim, Nasheim. Nashheim. Sorry, I'm not European or Scandinavian, so pronunciation is always a question. I try, but it's never perfect. But check it out. I'll put it in the chat. Nasheim.
I've never heard that. That's
good record.
Sounds cool.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
You're back, Logan.
Got it queued up. All right. So the next couple picks, I want to highlight something that I feel like 2014 kind of was for death metal. It was a big year for this new wave of death metal bands, and like there was a couple bigger releases that I think really helped to cement this as a trend. But I want to say that these releases that were coming out here to me sound a lot more exciting than the ones that are coming out currently and that really have kind of come out since. Like I feel like this is the peak. Alen already mentioned one of them. Appreciate it. Don't have to talk about it. Great summarization of Ecdysis. Another one is Artificial Brain with this is Labyrinth Constellations.
Cool album cover. They always have cool
really
album cover.
Really cool album cover. Paolo Giardi. I don't know if I said his name right, but
yep.
The
Greek guy, isn't he?
The Greek guy. He likes Man-O-War, drinking beer, and having his shirt off.
He's done a bunch of covers for Manila Road too.
Yeah. Some really good ones. This is, I think, one of my favorite of his album covers, and this is my favorite Artificial Brain album. Honestly, their other releases have not clicked with me in the same way this has. This is indeed kind of like that dissonant, but it's still very technical death metal. It is very science fiction-y, but it's not like the science fiction where it's like Star Trek and it's all beautiful and we're in a peaceful utopian future where we're trying to maintain democracy for all 1,200 planets. No, this is like fucking alien science fiction where there's a chest burster on the ship, picking off people one by one, and it feels very claustrophobic but expansive at the same time. It's a very weird dynamic. Tracks like Absorbing Black Ignition and Worm Harvester really do a good job of cementing like that the melodic and more just progressive elements, I guess, where there's just so much intensity to happen here on this album as well. I also want to highlight that the vocalist here, Will Smith, is also featured on a big album from last year, Afterbirth, In But Not Of. So same vocalist from this band to the new Afterbirth stuff. So, in fact, he's no longer in this band. I guess to pursue a bigger career with Afterbirth, maybe. But
is it a bigger career though? I mean, it's like apples, and I mean,
it's a lateral move.
It's a very lateral move.
It's a lateral move.
Because I mean the one artificial brain I have is the one with the robot on the cover, the reddish cover with the robot.
Red Horizon, I think.
Yeah, it's like it's brutal technical death metal, and he went from that to a brutal technical death metal band with some more experimental flourishes. So I mean, it's a lateral move.
So we went from a 125 person venue to a 115 person.
Yeah. Right. Good pick though. Cool.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So I can't find anything from records on Bandcamp.
From who?
From Massacre Records.
Massacre Records maybe is toast, huh?
I don't know. I don't know if they're toast or if they just don't have a Bandcamp presence. Some labels don't. I don't know. I feel better for not having outed Lone Wolf to their label now, but yeah, who's another artist on Massacre currently?
Massacre used to be a big deal, but I haven't heard much about Massacre Records, independent heavy metal label.
They're always one of those labels that they always feel like they should be kind of big, but then nobody seems to know the bands.
Still, their site's still up, I think. Wait, it's not loading. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, Balance of Power, Zombeast. Yeah, they're still active. The Rods,
Power,
Ravenstein, Stein.
Yeah, Balance of Power has no. I don't think they have a presence on Bandcamp. Balance of Power has no presence, and they would. That band's been around for a while. They would have stuff on Bandcamp by now if they were going to.
Yeah, they have new releases in 2024, so they're still a thing.
Okay, but yep, they just don't make use of the Bandcamp platform. I guess they don't like money. Sorry, channeling my inner crypto bro there for a second. Anyway, other big releases that we haven't touched on yet, and we should. This came out in 2014. After 7 years, Mayhem returns with a obviously revamped lineup. Esoteric Warfare. I can feel the love for it already.
It's good. It's just, I don't know. I never connected with that one for some reason.
I never did either. I never quite figured out what they were trying to do with this particular record. It sounds, it sounds cold. That's good for a black metal album, but hey, the songs here just never worked for me. Yeah, again, Telox, the new guy trying to write stuff. I liked the Blasphemer era for the most part, quite a bit. So there were already big shoes to fill, and it felt like they just missed the mark. And that's going to happen from time to time with a band like Mayhem, where they really do jump around stylistically. Sometimes you're going to land in a spot that you're just not into for an album, and that's okay. It's
a tough thing to fill. Runa Eriksson's guitar playing style is so unique. How do you follow that up?
Yeah, he did.
You have to try to emulate it in the same kind of style with your own flair and hope for the best, which is what they did. It's a reboot essentially.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's just for me, it wasn't a successful reboot. Now I do like, the next album after this, Damon. I think they did okay with that.
That's pretty good.
It's a little bit more throwback to their earlier stuff, but the songwriting's definitely, stepped up a notch. The performances are good. This album just, it maybe feels like they were rebooting, but didn't quite have a direction nailed down, which may be very pompous of me to say, but it just doesn't feel like, the album has a direction to it. So it's
Telox riffs and the Mayhem stuff is just, this is a generalization. I haven't heard all the stuff he's written on, but it seems they're cold, but they're kind of soulless. I mean, that you're like, oh, that's cool, that's black. No, I mean, like Euronymous, his riffs had feel and flow to them. Runa Eriksson or Blasphemer's shit had, even though it was weird, it had flow and feel to it. Telox is just kind of cold and calculated and weird, and dissonant. It just isn't really necessarily welcoming. Not that that's something you want in black metal, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I would say that's definitely true on Esoteric Warfare.
Yeah.
I feel like on Damon he got stronger at that. The songs start to have more cohesion to them. And again, it may just be they're a band that will try out different things, and one album isn't necessarily going to sound like the next. So yeah, this one's kind of a miss for me as well. But I like a lot of the other things in their catalog, and I do like the follow up. So still have hope for whatever they do next. After they go through another 3 live albums, I swear to God, this band has more live albums than Iron Maiden does. How many times do we need to hear, another concert from,
Well, they're the black metal Iron Maiden. Is there a band bigger than Mayhem in black metal? Maybe.
Unlike Maiden, though, they only tour on one album, so.
True.
This time when we go out, we're doing the De Mysterious full start to finish.
Yeah. You haven't heard this one yet, but this is Funeral. Fuck.
Yep.
Indeed. Yeah. Sooner or later they'll do another studio album, and when they do, I'll check it out. Might be good, may not, but it will be worth checking out at least. So that's the compliment.
All right. Well, we'll get everybody rolling their eyes because I think I talked about this album last week, but I don't care because this album rules. It's in the thumbnail. Sabaton's Heroes. This is the first album I heard by this band.
I put it right there next to your picture on the avatar.
He's punching Hitler, right?
He's taking out the Nazi guy. I think it's I can't tell. Maybe that's a Nazi taking out a U.S. guy. I don't know. Yeah, either way, the choruses and the songwriting on this album are great. I don't care what you say, who you think this band is or what this band is. It is well-written heavy metal. It's European power metal. These guys are Swedish. European power metal with more machismo, if that makes any sense. I don't know. This is the first album I heard by this band, and they've been rewriting it ever since. I mean, they're kind of a one-trick pony. You could tell they write the chorus first and then mash a song around it. But this album is exceptional. Every song on it's great. It's a sing-along type of album. It's fun. It's heavy. Joachim's vocal style is good. He's a great singer, good songwriter. I don't know, man. If you're on the fence about this type of stuff, oh yeah, here he is. Look at this. You say Johnny Touch 3 times and he finally appears. We've already talked about Johnny Touch, so you missed your time to shine, Ted.
Yep. At least 2 of the 3 of us showed it to us, so it was given its 15 minutes of fame. But
yep, check out Sabaton. If you're going to check out Sabaton, Heroes is the album. This is the one. If you don't like this one, just stop because this is their best. The couple that came after this are really good as well, but this is my absolute favorite by this band. All right. And Logan is back.
So after hearing you talk about that album 2 weeks in a row, fine, I'm downloading it. I'll check it out. You've convinced me.
Yeah, Logan's about to spiral into the power metal genre.
I've already got Kellen there. I feel like I'm getting somewhere.
How did you do that? What album was it? Was it had to have been?
Well, he loves Lost Horizon. Lost Horizon.
I almost would have been Horizon.
Sacred Outcry and all that stuff.
I feel like Sacred Outcry probably had an influence on him. But yeah, Logan, you're going to have to rebrand the channel in a couple more weeks. It's going to be more like Dolphins and Capes Snob.
If I do that, you won't let me back on here right now.
Oh no, you're welcome with open arms. This will be the group hug.
You will absolutely be allowed back on.
Oh, okay, fine. I'll revisit it. You're convincing me. But until then, let's talk about death metal. Another one I think has to be mentioned. Morbus Kron.
Yep.
This is their album, Sweden. No.
I didn't know that came out in 2014.
Yeah.
That band got so much buzz when they started. Yep. Nicky Anderson's brothers in that band. Yep.
Yeah. This was another one I was thinking like, I bet Morbus Kron came out around 2014 and I missed it somehow.
And indeed, and this is such a weird trip of an album. I listened to this one a couple times in preparation for the stream, just to try to wrap my head back around it, and I don't know if I fully got there. It's so wrapped in like psychedelia and just an interesting ambience and atmosphere that is so alien to death metal. It just makes it really a unique album. I mean, I think, as I said, I think 2014 had some of the best newer death metal albums to come out. Like, I don't know. I don't think we're getting too many death metal albums that are quite recapturing the weirdness and the adventurous soundscapes that are on this album. I mean, it's dreamy, but not like dream unending dreamy. It's a bit more tethered to an actual old school death metal vibe.
Yeah.
And the vocals are still like savage and yeah, it's just such a weird trip. And it's one of those where it works cohesively as an album. You can't really pick out individual tracks. You just kind of have to dive in. And who knows, maybe this is one of those albums I could have really only discovered back then when I had more time to, give albums like this versus now where, it just wouldn't click. But yeah, this one's great. They do have a band after this. So this was Morbus Kron's last album, but they became a band called Sweven. They're trying to recapture some of this popularity, I guess.
Didn't they really change their style though a lot from that, or am I wrong? I haven't heard it, so I'm guessing.
It's like they just took what this was and just kept going with it, like where you would think they would naturally progress into more progressive and more dreamy like soundscapes. That's kind of what they ended up doing. More psychedelic vibes for sure. But this is my favorite of theirs. Their previous album, because they only released 2 albums, I believe. Something of the Rift.
Lurkers in the Rift. Yep.
Lurkers in the Rift.
Wait.
Something or Sleeper.
Sleepers in the Rift. I think you're right.
Sleepers in the Rift.
And
then this one, and then they broke up pretty quick after that. And then this Sweven is definitely worth a listen. The band.
Sleepers in the Rift. Yep.
Oh, okay. So we'll get it there.
Yep.
Yeah, that's another cool one, Logan.
Yep.
I wonder if part of it
is right in the chat.
I wonder if part of it with what you're observing there, with band death metal being sort of more interesting in 2014, maybe it just wasn't as crowded a playing field as it is now 10 years later.
Yeah.
That has to be it, honestly.
I may not be right, because again, I wasn't
paying
a lot of attention. But I noticed we haven't shown a ton of death metal tonight, and we certainly didn't have any of those big. We don't have those tentpole bands, with albums out in 2014. So maybe it was just easier for these things to get some notice.
So when it hit, you were like, "Wow, this is unique."
Mm-hmm.
There's only a couple of albums like this out there. Versus now, it's like, "Oh yeah, there's 4 dozen over there," and
$20 Spin released 3 last week.
Yeah, okay.
That's just it.
The $20 Spin sound is what this is.
Yeah.
Sorry, Marty.
No. I was gonna say that there wasn't as many bands then doing the style, but the style that's happening now, there's like 2 focuses. There's like the bigger bands are going more proggy, and the smaller bands are devouring each other in this like OSDM cavernous thing. I mean, it's kind of hard to find any individuality in that sort of mix. You're not going to get a lot of it, There'll be some standouts for sure. And even the crappy bands, or I say crappy, but they're still good. It's still good. It's just how many do I need with a different logo that all sound the same,
It just doesn't stick with you. It's like,
yeah,
it's really hard
you say the same thing for every band. It's like, they're really good. They're really good.
They sound like Incantation, just like all the other things I listened to this week.
Yep.
Including Incantation.
Right.
Yeah. Are you suffering from OSDM? Try Thantafaxeth. 3 out of 5 doctors recommend. Side effects
may include.
Yeah. Sensitivity to sunlight. Anyway, here you go. Alen, what you got?
All right. Another big one from the year that we need to talk about. Another one I got digitally. So At the Gates returned with At War with Reality. An album I tend to forget about.
It's forgettable.
And it is.
It's
for
a
me.
forgettable album. I hate to say
I
it.
really do
It
sometimes
is.
think that the one after this, the one with the red cover that nobody likes, was their comeback album. Then like, oh wait, nope, there was one before this. But yeah, there was obviously a lot of hype around this. At the Gates had broken up after releasing Slaughter of the Soul, which was one of those big benchmark albums. And there at the time, there was so much chat about, oh my gosh, such a shame. What could they follow it up with? Where would they have gone from there? They broke up, at the peak, and well, we found out what would happen, but it was a lot later with this one. And yeah, this album just never grabbed me. It wasn't awful, but it just felt very kind of plain. Which the fact that I forget about it says a lot, and it's actually probably one of the worst things you can say about an album. Is just like, oh yeah, did that even exist? I guess in hindsight, it's better than what they've done since then. It's the best of their comeback material, but I don't know. It just doesn't recapture anything of what they did in their first run of albums. I don't remember how people reacted to it at the time. Like I said,
Man, I got a lot of hype, a ton of hype.
I know it got the hype, but what did people think of it once they heard it? Were people still big on it, or were people really disappointed with it?
I bought it when it came out, and I was excited with it for a couple days. I listened to it for a week, and I haven't touched it since. It just doesn't have the staying power. The songs are not that. They're just not that great. They're just not. It's hard to follow up Slaughter of the Soul. It just is.
Yeah.
They did the right thing by quitting at that point. They influenced a ton. They influenced this, mall metal type of stuff with that album, which is unfortunate, but they can't help that. They put out a great record, the pinnacle of their career, I would say, and people would disagree with me on that. But yeah, it's just not that good. It's not as good as that, and it's hard. That's a hard record to follow up. It just is.
Yeah. Yeah, their reunion comeback stuff has not been that successful, but you're right too. I mean, one thing I've noticed, it's become very fashionable in a way to hate on Slaughter of the Soul because it spawned all these other screamo and mallcore and deathcore and some other things with core in the name.
That's not the band's fault.
No, that really is dumb in my opinion. That's like blaming Incantation and Mortal Throne of Nazarene for having too many OSDM bands running around now. It's not their fault. They didn't do that. Why are you taking it out on them? That makes no sense.
Yeah.
So if you don't like Slaughter of the Soul, and some people don't, that's okay. But yeah, if you're going to try to trash it simply because, it's responsible for all these bands running around with their hair dyed black and tattoos on their neck, trying to prove how macho they are. Like At the Gates sat and planned that out in Sweden in the mid 90s that this was going to happen. Get over it. But yeah, we can also get over this album pretty easily too. It just the band was back. It was a thing that happened, and this week was the first time I've played this probably since 2014, and I won't be playing it again anytime soon.
Yep,
I'm with you. It was funny when it came out. It was almost billed like because Carcass's comeback was super successful the year before, Surgical Steel, and I'm all about that album. So when that came out, there were always it felt like, everyone can do great comeback albums now. And then that was released, everyone billed it and hyped it up. Like I think it was the number one album in Decibel that year.
It was.
Yeah.
And I found a lot of the strength of a comeback. I mean, a lot of it was put on Tampa's head, and his voice has always been questionable. I mean, you listen to Red in the Sky Is Ours, their first album. His voice sounds shot in that record. He sounds like they've been practicing and playing a lot of shows, and they went in to record, and his voice was fried that day, the day he did vocals. And his voice has always been up or down. And, during that time, the War with Reality came out. Well, he was in Dysphere. He was in a bunch of other bands. And his voice has always been kind of struggling. I've been told the latest one that they did, his voice is completely shot. So it's tough. It's rough on guys like that. He's iconic. He's a super nice guy. You want him to do well, but I mean, the strength of Slaughter of the Soul, part of it's the vocal performance, the riffs, the riffs. I mean, the songwriting and the riffs are amazing. But then his voice is great on that record, you know. But
yeah, that's a really good point, Logan, about the success of the Carcass comeback the year before. And I just checked because there was another one that had blipped through my mind. Like, was this a 2014 album? But it wasn't. But it was another 2013 comeback that did pretty well and got a good reception. Was Cathedral with Lost Spire.
Yeah.
So yeah, you had a couple of those older bands that had come back and put out well-received albums just a year before this. So yeah, that definitely kind of played into setting up at the gates for pretty high expectations. I think you're right.
It really felt like a true underground, like Renaissance. I mean, like for me, it's hard not to be biased because this is when I was getting into the music, you know. But like 2013, 2014, you had the old bands doing comeback albums, which were actually good, and then all these new bands making material, which was to me actually good and unique too, and new to the sound, but also for me. So it's like I can't be unbiased, unfortunately. So you know, to me, it's a great year.
Yep. Yeah. No, every year is going to have some big surprises. Every year is going to have a few disappointments. There's no getting around that. Well, Marty, what's next in your stack?
Let's do this. I admittedly needed a bunch of listens to warm up to this album, but it finally clicked for me. Slothfeg, Digital Resistance.
Slothfeg often takes a few listens. That's fair.
They do. Yeah, this case is completely shot. This is their Metal Blade debut. I don't think they were on Metal Blade very long. This might have been a one and done thing for them. I don't know for sure. But this sounds very much this album, the riffs are still really great, but they're a little bit more, you needed time to sit with them. There's something in a song on here about a hitman. I can't remember which one it is. I love that song. I can't remember the name of it. I'm terrible with song titles. Anyway, it's just this band has a sound all their own. The vocals, their concepts, their riff writing, their songwriting, they kind of stand alone. And this album is no different. It took some time to get into it, which is fine. But and the one after this one too, the new, what the fuck's it called? Oregon, or I can't remember. Anyway, the later Slothfeg stuff, it isn't an instant love for me. I have to work at it. And the new Oregonian, I think, is the name of the newest one. Again, it's on my keep listening to piles when I'm in the mood, but it doesn't beat like Traveler or Down Among the Dead Men or Atavism or Ape Uprising or Traveler. I already said that. It's really good though. They have a sound all their own. I love this band. The guitar works great. Songwriting, new Organon. Thanks, Mike. I knew it was something like that. But if you're never heard of Slothfeg, they started out as the Lord Weird Slothfeg. I would recommend listening to Traveler or Down Among the Dead Men, or Twilight of the Gods is good too. Twilight of the Idols. Sorry.
Idols, yeah.
Yep, Twilight of the Idols. Amazing band. Often overlooked. Fantastic heavy metal. Great stuff.
Yeah, that's a band that I need to get into and probably would help bridge the gap for me between where I'm at and power metal. I feel like that could help.
I think you would love
Worlder,
Traveler.
But, yeah.
You have Hard Worlder?
Yeah, I found like a Digiback promo or something. And,
oh, nice.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
But I got to check out Traveler for sure.
Oh my God. There is not a bad riff on that thing. It's just a riff after riff of holy crap. So good.
The vocals are interesting though. I will say that about.
Yeah. Well, that I think would be a
take a
point.
second. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
But I mean, if you can get into Manila Road, I mean, why not?
Yep, exactly.
All right, sticking with some death metal. Let's see. Going a little more obscure. This is definitely going down the Gorguts route. We got the band Bearing Teeth with Ghost Chorus Among Old Ruins. So
never heard.
Don't know this one.
Yep, I mean, this is like straight up dissonant death metal, very like definitely Gorguts, definitely Deathspell Omega, the harmonic riffs, crazy drum performance and just off the wall song structures where you're like, you know, is this a song? Does this count as a song? But it's interesting and it's engaging enough. And once again, it saves itself because it's like 38 minutes. I think when an album like this tips over the 40 to 45 minute mark, you know, you got to be careful. But if you keep it around the 35 to 40, you know, you're doing okay, and it's easier to appreciate. So I'll keep it short and sweet on this one because I feel like this is probably one I'm getting to more of underground picks, I guess. This also did come out on Willow Tip, so
okay.
I think they released an album last year too for those looking. But Bearing Teeth is the band, and this is Ghost Chorus Among Old Ruins.
All right, Alen.
Let's see. Oh, okay. 919's got some good ones listed there from 2014. I meant to check and see if there was a Verathron from 2014, and I did not.
It's good. I didn't pull it because I like some of the stuff before it a little bit better, but it's a good record.
Yeah, they're a band another one I'm slowly working through the catalog on, so I haven't heard this one from 2014 yet. All right, I'm going to go in. Oops, wrong button. Sorry. I want to do one more of a hard rock entry. This was a band that was sort of sucked into the more, you know, glam metal side of things in the late 80s, which wasn't the right place for them. But they came back, they've stuck around and had a very good run of albums over the last 20 years or so. It's House of Lords, and they released one in 2014 called Precious Metal. You know, kind of a strange cover. I kind of like it. It's, you know, just got a weird color palette where some of it's very bright, but with the very white face and hand.
Regardless, all the primary colors on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just kind of works. It's nicely balanced in a strange way. But yeah, this band, you know, was started by the keyboardist from Angel, Mark Girufera. I always butcher his name, Girufera. He had a solo project, but you know, he got this band. Jafria, is that how you say it?
That's how I always said it. I don't know if it's right.
You're probably right. I'm
probably not right, but that's how I always said it.
every time I look at his name, I just don't have a clue what to do with it. But anyway, he got the band up and running, but didn't stay with the band, you know, all that long. You know, he's on a few of the albums, but eventually he, you know, moved on. They've had, you know, they have kind of a funny lineup where guys will play a couple albums, leave, but then come back, and then leave and come back. So it always looks like it's changing a lot from album to album. But if you look at the whole scheme of things, it's like, it's a lot of the same guys. They just only play on a few albums at a time. So yeah, there it is, Mike. Thank you. Greg. Well, let's just call him Greg G. And I won't embarrass myself as bad. Some of this band's albums are better than others. This one is pretty good. They did a really fantastic album in 2022, Saints and Sinners. James Christian's got a very distinctive voice. It's perfect for this kind of, you know, heavier hard rock, you know, in the 80s styles. The band's on Frontiers Records. If people are familiar with that label, that'll give you a pretty good idea right away of what they sound like. They're not on the proggier end of things from Frontiers has, you know, prog, and then they have like really solid, you know, older veteran bands like this. If people, not that they sound like Dokken or anything like that, but just if you like that style of music from the 80s where, you know, it's much better composed and written than, you know, the glam metal tripe that it sometimes got just lumped in with. House of Lords is the kind of band that you could appreciate. So really good stuff. I always check out their albums when they come out. A lot of them I just get digitally. I'm okay with that. But yeah, they're still around and still putting out some of their best albums. So it's cool that they've had a good long career, even if they never really have broken through to a lot of mainstream success. Maybe that's why they've had a good long career.
All right. Well, while Nick Holmes was out moonlighting with Bloodbath, doing Grand Morbid Funeral, Gregor was this his second or third album with his project Valenfire? Was this Splinters? Gregor McIntosh? I'm not going to look it up right now. But I always liked this band. The first album was him kind of processing the death of his father, kind of sad lyrics. What's up, King Snake Jake? And also a new person up here I just want to say hello to Alessandra. Welcome. Glad we can help you enjoy your husband's music. That's cool. But yeah, anyway, back to Valenfire. There's a crust element to this. You can tell the old scene, the old Peaceful bands like Bolt Thrower. Not that they were on Peaceful, but Paradise Lost. They were into crust punk. They were probably crust punks when they were kids, and it spilled into the music they made afterwards. Early Paradise Lost has that vibe for sure, and this does as well. It's heavy death metal with some doom elements, yeah, like I said, there's a crust. There's a little bit of some speed on it as well. Well written. I mean, it even looks like a crust punk record. The artwork, even the name of the band. I don't know. I've always liked this project. It's kind of sad that it's done, but yep, check it out. If you've not heard the Valenfire, Gregor's vocals are great. He's got a sick death metal retch to him. Good stuff.
That's a good pick. I did like that one. Didn't end up picking it up, but is that an Uber Cult album cover? Like what was his name? Justin.
I have no idea. I can look it up. I can look it up here while we're.
Good. Yeah, good pick though. I got one more weird. I don't even know if I want to call it one.
Doesn't
metal.
say. All right, go ahead.
All right. This is Pyrrhon. There's the name, Pyrrhon, with the album The Mother of Virtues.
Huh.
And this is probably death metal in name only. It probably has a lot more resemblance to like grind, noise rock, hardcore, but probably all thrown into a shredder and then put in like a death metal packaging. It's a pretty fucked up, twisted album. It's just really weird and abrasive. It's not a fun listen, but not in the same way that like a dissonant, like Obscura kind of band wouldn't be. This is just very abrasive, like shoving, beer, shoving shards of glass in your ears.
I understood you just fine. We speak in the same language.
Similar wavelength, exactly.
Yeah.
But this if you want to torture yourself for like an hour or whatever, this one is worth the time. Human Falafel gets it. Just a fun, fucked up piece of work. These guys are from New York, and not the Frank Sinatra New York, but the that underbelly of New York.
Is that another Jeff Whitehead artwork? Because his stuff always looks like a Pokemon character.
You know what? Now you're stuck me on the artwork. I appreciate the quick comeback. I'm not sure. I'm gonna say yes.
It's Rest-esque. It looks like a Pokemon.
This is
the rejected
Nightmare
Pokemon.
Mon. Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, weird album for sure.
All right, Alen.
All right, we'll do at least one more power metal one here. This was a band that never went anywhere. They had a lot of potential, and they kind of messed it up. From Minnesota, of all places, Noble Beast put out their one and only album. And it's really brilliant in this sort of epic power metal
It
vein.
is.
It's incredibly good, very catchy. The vocalist is good, has kind of a little bit more of a deeper, more baritone voice, which gives it some weight. The songs are well composed. Guitar work is fantastic. If you like any of the more epic leaning side of power metal, it's really top-notch stuff. And the band pissed it all away because pretty soon after it was recorded, members got in trouble for doing some really scummy things, and the band immediately fell apart. The label didn't want anything else to do with them. Reportedly, a lot of the copies of the CD were literally destroyed. The label, it was so bad, the label's just like, we're not even selling this. We'll just throw them away. We don't want anything to do with this. So, and to my knowledge, the people that didn't get in trouble from the band, I'm not aware of them ever trying to, circle back around and recapture it. It feels like a real missed opportunity, especially
it's a good album.
It's a good album, and especially considering that kind of epic power metal has gotten pretty popular in the past 10 years. Lots of bands like Smolder and stuff do well with that now. So if they had kept their act together, they might have had a chance to go somewhere. They had the talent to certainly make waves in that particular niche of heavy metal, but they didn't. And as such, it was sort of a one and done, and that's it. Excuse me. Just, as a heads up, if anyone, is interested in checking out the band, they still had a Bandcamp presence a while back, but they don't really, update it or anything. If you try to get the CD, for example, don't expect a quick reply from anybody on the other end. This is one that, if you want the CD, I'd recommend just going to like Discogs or somewhere else to look for it. If you try to buy it through Bandcamp, good luck. That's all I'm going to say. Might not want to throw your money in that particular direction, not because of any of the band's past history, just because they really don't seem to, check up on orders or anything like that anymore. Because again, it's been 10 years ago, and they're not really probably expecting much traffic. But it is a very, very good album if you like epic power metal. That's, I guess you could say in one way it's a little bit cheesy, but it doesn't feel like they're going, just for like, fake, troll noses and, overly happy songs. It's got some more kind of doom sword heft to it, which is what really helped them stand out. Sometimes it just doesn't work. A shame.
Damn, I did not realize that's what happened to that band, because I remember when that came out, and then nothing. So now, now it all makes sense. And
it was kind of the same way when Marty and I discovered. It was like, damn, this is really good. What happened to these guys? Let's listen to it.
We picked it I picked it for the album club because I bought them like, this album rules, and then come to find I was quickly commented by Christine, who bought the remnants of the label, Tridroid Records. She's like, just a heads up, this is what happened with that band. It's like, we don't want us to promote that, so we scrapped the whole idea. But I can take a lot of things, but the charges there, I don't fly with that.
Some cancellations are worse than others.
Some cancellations are worth it for sure, but some of it is unwarranted. I don't agree with your opinions, therefore you're canceled. I don't fly with that. But when you start doing stuff like that, adults, it's like,
when you're getting arrested for serious felonies, that's another level.
You can. We're not going to promote it. It's a great record. Needless to say, at the end of the day, it's still a great record.
You like music.
If you like music, you don't care about that shit. It's worth checking out.
Yeah, I was, of course, Inquisition. Sorry, we don't need to keep talking about that.
I haven't listened to Inquisition since that came out. Which is similar. Which is funny because I used to really like that band, and I don't know. Anyway. Okay, well, for the last little bit here, I am going to show off in my turns here 5 records that I put out this year of 2014. Because some people really like it. And Panopticon, Roads to the North. This is the first Panopticon release that came out on Binoon Recordings. Co-released it with Nordvis overseas. The 10-year anniversary of this album is currently on the way to me as we speak. New vinyl variant. Recut the plates for it because the old plates were destroyed. So it sounds a little bit heavier, and it's got all the lyrics and stuff. Anyway, this is the album after Kentucky, and it is where Kentucky was more of a bit of a bluegrass protest record. This one here is more northern black metal. Well, there's still some Appalachian Americana stuff weaved into it as well, but this is a very fast, very crushing record. Yeah, very proud of this album. Just kind of put Bindern on the map, to be honest. And obviously, Austin was a friend before this, and working with him on all this stuff, it's just been a long, fun relationship for sure. But yep, Roads to the North. This came out in 2014. We sold so many of these records. It's been pressed 4 times, 5 times. I don't know. And people still want it. It's a tribute to the fact of what he's built with his music and who he is as a person. And more fans are coming onto this band. So it's, it's always a race to try to keep these things in print. And it's not easy because we're so small. But we do what we do. We do what we can do. And if you're into post black metal, I mean, there's black metal influences, but one of his favorite bands of all time is Death. So you listen to some of these riffs. There's a lot of shredding Chuck Schuldiner type stuff going on in Panopticon music. You just have to peel back the onion layers to hear it sometimes, but there's a shred element to some of the stuff, which is kind of cool up against the woodsy black metal and the Americana, the way it all sits together. He's one of the best in the genre that does that. He does it seamlessly, and that's why I think his band is so popular. But yep, Roads to the North, that came out in 2014. Oh, there's one here I forgot, and I'll get it next time. Logan.
Yeah, that was the first Panopticon album that really fell onto my radar. I'm sure for a lot of people it was Kentucky, but that for me, and yeah, it was big and quite the undertaking. I think the first album that really clicked with me was probably Scars of Man on the Once Nameless Wilderness. That's to date my favorite Panopticon release. I think just how he separated out his sound was brilliant on that one. So
absolutely, yep.
But yeah, great release for sure. I'll have to try to snag the 10-year.
Yep,
the 10-year
it's still available. Come and get it.
All right, underground, abrasive death metal. We're going to underground abrasive sludge metal. This is more of that like Lord Mantis intense wall of sound stuff that I really love. I can't help but be a sucker for this. And this might be the most intense band. This is Indian with their album From All Purity. This came out on Relapse. Took it out of the sleeve because we're victims of, I think, a library or something right there on the jewel case. But I've heard this album described as musical carpet bombing, and I would 100% back that. This is just abrasive, completely. It doesn't care about the listener at all. Doesn't give a shit. It wants to give you tinnitus as quickly as possible. That's its ultimate goal. And it really is like a wall of sound just marching at you at like a slightly faster than a Funeral Doom pace. But just, yeah, love this album. Love how intense it is. I mean, track 1 is called Rape. I mean, goddamn, you can't get more visceral than that. The best track on here is Rhetoric of No, track 4. That's where they almost go a little bit industrial in it. It's got like this industrial pinging noise that just starts kind of making you go a little insane a bit. And it just keeps going. And I feel like Indian has summoned Brian into the chat. Cheers, Brian. You came in at the right time, my friend.
Good to see you, Brian.
Yep. Yeah, love these guys. And then it closes with Disambiguation, probably best song in the album. So, yeah, definitely check out Indian's whole discography, but this might be my favorite.
All right, Alen.
All right. I haven't shown much black metal at all tonight, maybe none, but I'll show this. This was a demo that came out in 2014. Band is Cold Fells.
We put that out, 2014 as well. We put out the full length.
Oh, yep. Yeah. You think, okay. So
with
yeah,
with Iwas, yeah.
yeah, this was the demo Black Breath. This is Aaron Carey later, or I guess at the same time with Nachachwin, but yeah, just a 2-track demo, but really cool stuff. Really like both the songs on this, and yeah, they got to do an album, but yeah, the project, I guess the lineup never they couldn't just get. It was hard to get everybody in one place at the same time.
The guy that wrote all the songs was the main guy, and then Aaron and Andrew from Nachachwin helped him out to see the songs come to fruition.
Yeah, so it worked, but yeah, it wasn't really meant to be a full-time band for all of them at the same time. But yeah, the Coalfields demos tracks are very cool. Something Aaron had recommended a couple of years ago, and I really enjoyed. So just pulled this as a black metal representative. Apparently, I just was not paying much attention at all to black metal in 2014. As folks can see from my picks tonight, a lot more power metal kind of stuff seemed to be in my playlist back then. And in terms of other stuff I was buying, it was all old, obscure 80s metal vinyl. So I guess those two things kind of track together a bit. But yeah, the Coalfields demo is really cool. If you've never checked it out, they still have this one is up on Bandcamp. And there's a heart you can click too. So it'll be easy for you to track it down later when you need to. See, it's it's not there because I already bought it, so I don't have the heart. But yeah, check out Coalfields. Very cool, nice 2-track demo.
You might have to spell that one.
Cold Fells. Yes. COLDFELLS. One word.
And I was trying to figure out if I liked the logo or not, because obviously that's like the center of the album, but it looks like the Gondor tree from Lord of the Rings in the background. So
that's kind of what that stuff was based on, Lord of the Rings type stuff. Yeah.
And the tracks are called Dungeons Deep and On Carven Throne. So yeah, they're definitely leaning a little Tolkien-y there.
It's a good logo then.
Good eye,
all right,
good eye, Logan, on the treat.
Before I continue with the stuff that I had a hand in releasing, this is one that slipped through the cracks, and it is White Devil Armory by Overkill. This was a good one. There's so many Overkill records at this point. They're hit or miss.
I have never seen or heard of this one. That is
it's solid. It's a ripper from start to. I mean, the problem with a lot of these new Overkill records is, I mean, there's 11 tracks on here, and they're all weighty tracks. It's like bands just kind of forgot to write get in and get out. 40 minutes. Around that it is good, but when you start getting past that, especially when you're doing stuff like this, you've been playing the same style since the beginning. Like I said, Overkill's had some great records, some hits and misses, some that are okay. This kind of fell. Ironbound has always been a kind of one I continue to go back to. It's a good record. This one's really good as well. Electric Age, I think, is another one that's really good. They've been on kind of an upswing, but not really much to say here. Overkill sounds like Overkill. It's just the songs are full of the right amount of piss and vinegar, and it kept me coming back for a while after this came out. So Overkill, one of those bands I have to have everything by just because I love their early output so much. But
yeah, I'm so far behind on Overkill. I literally have never seen that album before.
Yep.
I had no
there
idea.
You go.
I would remember that title and the gray cover.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to work on that.
Wade.
I will get caught up on Overkill in the near future.
All right.
Is that the first thrash metal album we've talked about?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
See, even like the pizza thrash and like the more newer thrash stuff was not very hot back in like the early...
Tankard had an album out this year called Rest in Beer, RIB, which I figured Logan would have picked that would be in line with the theme of his stuff, but he must not I don't even have that one.
My biggest most sacrilegious thing I've done is I don't own a single Tankard album.
Oh, you're missing out on some good stuff. It would be totally so up your alley. It'd be up your alley.
I never seen any of their stuff,
it doesn't show up in the wild much,
That's probably why I don't own it. So
I think a lot of people that have it keep it. I mean, they don't.
I don't think a lot of people have it. To be honest, I might be wrong, but I think they were always the band, the German thrash band on the outside looking in on the big three.
And they weren't a touring band. I think that's a big thing. They weren't ever.
They played Europe festivals, and that was about it.
Yeah. Never came over here. Never really had, I feel like, close to a breakout, right? I mean, they were just always that, people were like, we need a Teutonic 4. Who's the fourth?
I guess you guys can come in now.
Yeah, come in, Tankard. You're the
They
Anthrax.
were probably
Come on
biggest on their first 4 albums because they had Noise International or Noise, International here in the States. I don't know. I loved them. I thought they were great. I've bought some more recent-ish albums here in the last year, and they're still good. They're just a good band. But anyway, what you got, Logan?
I'll get to them. All right. But back to sludge metal. But this time we're sticking to local sludge. These are, I guess this is my new local band here. The band is Thou, and this is their 2014 album, Heathen. So they're pretty prolific band, and they're prolific with their pressings too. And what's always interesting is that they just do different album covers. I think they try to confuse people. So like this is Heathen on CD, and this is Heathen on LP.
I saw them perform that whole album live at the Gilead Fest one year in Wisconsin.
Yeah, did you like it? Or
it was good. The people, that was the first I heard them. But the people that were there watching it were freaking the fuck out. They were totally losing their shit, singing along with it, and they knew what was up. I would just kind of stand and go, yeah, these guys are good. But
I think they definitely have their cult following or their like kind of fan base, and really that whole label kind of does. The whole Gilead label with like acts like Krallis and Hell and stuff.
Yep.
And these guys are no different. And the singer has a record store here in New Orleans, which if anyone ever comes to visit the city, it's probably one of the #1 record stores I'd recommend checking out, because it's off the beaten path of like the Bourbon Street and like the shittier, sketchier, more touristy areas. It's called Sisters in Christ Records. I'm sure he stands by it, but got a great selection of a lot more punk oriented stuff. I would say he definitely specializes in the punk and hardcore, but good metal there too. On to this Thou album. This is probably them at their most post-rock, post-metal. It's very drawn out, the songs. I mean, they can take like 12 to 14 minutes. The first track, Free Will, I think is the best example of this and my favorite song on the album. And just real crushing, but still experimental. And it's a little more two-dimensional or more three-dimensional than the two-dimensional Indian album I showed previously. Like if you want that like intense sludge sound with a bit more extreme metal influence, but then also some dynamics and some variety, and not to feel like you're being beaten over the head for an hour, I would check out Thou and definitely check out this album. And I think Phil is actually explaining, because no baloney over here is a native New Orleanian, so he knows. So that's why it's Sisters in Christ is the name of the record store. But Thou are also expert collaborators too, so I would check out some of their collaborative efforts. They have an amazing album with Emma Ruth Rundle called May Our Chambers Be Full. That's like a 10 out of 10 album for me. And then also a phenomenal album from 2 years ago with Mizmor called Myopia. And they also do a great Nirvana covers album. So Thou are a band of many hats, and one I would highly recommend for probably any metal fan, but you might have to like sludge to be able to get the sound.
They're very carefree too. They're not really chained to any certain, I said, they're doing Nirvana cover, they're doing experimental shit, they're doing a little bit of everything, which is cool. I mean, it kind of can confuse the fan base, but if your fan base is devout enough that they're along for the ride. But for casual onlookers, it'd be like, what the hell, Like I can get that too. Good pick. I didn't realize that was a 2014 either. All right, Alen.
All right, kind of getting towards the bottom of the stack here. guess this was another fairly big one that came out. We should touch base on. Cynic did kindly bent to free us. I always want to say save us, but it's free us. Some folks had mentioned this one in the chat earlier. Again, I bought this, as a download when it came out. Listened to it. I went on kind of a bit of a Cynic kick around this time. I had enjoyed, some of their quote unquote comeback albums. So I'd gotten this one too, but I think, I had kind of drifted away from this style a bit by the time this one came out, because I don't think I ever played this one very much. Yeah, I kind of checked my notes on it, and it's like, good album, typical Cynic. It takes a while to digest it. So I don't have a ton to say on this one other than that, yeah, it came out. It was still, a very solid album by Cynic, but it didn't get a ton of spins. This is another one of those bands where, yeah, let me check the planner. Maybe I can work it in and, give it 14 hours next April or something. A good band, an interesting band. It's just a very time-intensive band if you're really going to listen to it and try to get what's going on. Just putting this on in the background while you're doing other stuff just isn't going to work well. So never gave this one as much time as it probably needed for me to fully wrap my brain around it. But it was, another solid and well-received Cynic release for 2014. And I've kind of lost track of them since then.
I was a bit let down by that one, honestly.
Were you? Okay.
Yeah, I thought it tried to tread too much of the Trace Air, but Trace Air was so easily digestible, whereas you said with that one, it's not. Mm-hmm. It probably does take more listens. So
yeah, that was
probably just good. Yeah, I was comparing it too much, I bet.
Yeah, but that's a good point about Trace Air too. I think that was a reason I did like that one, and it clicked with me easier, was that it was a little easier to connect with. And let's see, yeah, I never did hear the 2021 album Ascension Codes. No, I completely missed
that one. That one is even more immersive to me. Like, there's these weird interlude tracks that kind of space out the album.
Yeah,
that one did not click with me. I probably only tried twice, but
yeah, I'm looking covering. Okay, I have seen that album around. I just never have. Yeah, I've never dived into it to check it out. Maybe someday. Cynic's a band I seem to go through cycles with. I'll get into them and play them a lot for a year, then I don't touch them for several years. So just have to wait for the next Cynic cycle to roll around. But yep, I'm getting close to the end of my stack. Marty, how you doing with yours?
I got 4 more. I can go through them quick though. Whenever you guys are done.
Yeah, I got 4 too.
All right. Well, The Embers of the Stars, the debut album by Contreras. Put this out on Binary Recordings. I love this record, and I was bummed that it didn't do a bit better. This is Michael. He was at the time the keyboardist for Woden's Throne. This is a side project. Stephen Black, who passed away on vocals. This to me is very Emperor-esque. It has a sweeping atmospheric feeling to it. Man, I love this album. When we put this out, I listened to this so much. It was in my car constantly. It was just a very world building, the symphonic nature with all the keyboards on it. It's just very Emperor-esque, like Woden's Throne was as well. The first Woden's Throne album was very Emperor-esque as well. But this is just a fantastic record. Their new album is coming out this year on Vinyroom. And I don't know, maybe we'll put this out on vinyl too. I don't know, we'll see. But still a bunch of CDs left. If anybody wants to hear this, it's really, really a great album. It does have programmed drums, which might be a sticking point for some people, but he tried to humanize them a lot. Really, the music is so atmospheric and expansive. It was never a problem for me. But I've never been afraid of the synthetic drum thing anyway. But yep, check out Embers of the Stars by Contreras. The new Contreras has Austin from Panopticon playing drums on it, so they've got a real drummer this time around. Great stuff. Check it out.
Cool. That's one I gotta listen to. I heard that one. I'll add it to the Panopticon order, I guess. So one more.
I'll hook you up. I can hook you up. I probably owe you a package anyway.
You know, so it's all good. Let's see, one more super sludge doom album, and this is like the ultimate in the doom category. Bong Ripper. Gotta have Bong Ripper on there.
Brian's in the chat. Everything
Yeah, come on,
swirls back
Brian.
around to fucking bong stuff.
I was just waiting for Brian to pop in. Now that he's there, we can talk about Bong Ripper. And this is their album, Miserable, and yeah, very very much so. Look at that album cover. And this is fully instrumental doom. It's like an hour long of almost funeral doom mixed with a bit of like southern swagger. I think they're based out of Chicago, Illinois. Great stuff. Their album before this one, Satan Worshipping Doom, is great too. The tracks on that one are Satan, Worship, Doom, and the tracks on this one are Endless Descent into Ruin. So I love how it, forms a happy message for the listener. So the final song is thank you, Brian. It's Hail Satan, Worship Doom. That's for the previous album. The
Get
final
it right,
track,
Logan. Come on. Get your bong band straight, bro.
Beelzebongzilla.
Beelzebong, yeah.
But the final song is 30 minutes of just pummeling drums and guitar. Honestly, for the longest time, this would be my pick. This might still be my pick for like heaviest album. It just feels immense. I don't know what they're doing to like the bass end, like what the bass guitar is doing, or what they're down tuning their guitars to. But this thing is fucking heavy. Their whole sound is heavy. And guess what? There's a new album coming out this year. Everyone, mark your calendars. Guess what date it's coming out on? Any
420,
guesses?
bro.
Well, Friday is 4/19, so it's coming out on 4/19.
Oh, dude, the marketing is ruined.
Bummer, bro. But
dude, you're harshening my buzz here, man.
Yeah. You have to get kind of the contact high. You're next to it on 420.
Exactly. The true stoners are already celebrating on 4/19.
Yeah. All right, Alen.
All right. This band had been doing really well for about 5 years up to 2014. And then they kind of came back down to earth. 2014 was While Heaven Wept, suspended at Aphelion. And this album just doesn't work. The band had built, a good following early in the century. They really peaked on Vast Ocean's Lacrimose in 2009. That album got rave reviews. For a lot of people, it was album of the year. It, really kind of pulled out that kind of classic mid-'80s Fates Warning influence, but did something unique with it. The follow-up to that was pretty good. One problem this band ran into, though, was every time you turned around, they seemed to have another cellist in the band, or another keyboardist, or another cellist, or a flautist. And it's just like, getting awfully crowded in that lineup. And it really kind of did seem to cause problems for the band just in terms of trying to get everybody together or get them on the same page. And this album it was a very big disappointment. My wife and I both liked the band quite a bit. And again, the 3 albums before this are really, really good. So when this came out, we're like, yay, great. I'm like, well, I'll buy it on eMusic first. We'll probably pick up the CD of that as soon as it comes out. We have never bothered to buy the physical copy of this one. It's the only While Heaven Wept album I don't have a physical copy of. It just feels very uninspired, which is bad for this band because this band is very inspiring. Of Empires Forlorn, great album, very beautiful, very emotive. Falling into Infinity, great. Again, they're really good. Tom Phillips was, very good at, hitting those emotional touches and flourishes and getting this kind of big, grandiose sweep without straying into any of the Nightwish kind of territory. It always had, a solid, old metal underpinning to it. This album just doesn't do anything. It's a band that is out of ideas, that has 6 members, and none of them seem to know what they want to do here. It's not like it falls apart. I mean, there are songs you can play through it, but it just doesn't. They've completely lost their muse. Is about the only way I can think to put it. And it was pretty soon after this that the band just ceased to exist, which is a shame. They had something really good going there for a while, and the wheels fell off. And that was that. So it was kind of a sad ending to what had been, a really strong band right there in kind of, the late from 2003 up to about 2013. They had a 10-year run there where While Heaven Wept was, really leading the charge for a lot of, traditional metal, but doing it in a really great new way. And they just lost the plot. So the end of While Heaven Wept in 2014.
All right.
Did they disband after that? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I pretty soon after that. Maybe it was technically 2015 or something. They may have played live for a while after it, but yeah, there was nothing. And you could just kind of tell in interviews and stuff too. I don't know if there were even 1, 2, 3, 4. Even the picture they have on Metal Archives, there are 7 people in the picture. You do not need 7 people in a heavy metal band.
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
You just don't. Christopher Johnson doesn't have that many people in theory, and he's playing with a fucking orchestra half the time. It collapsed under its own weight. Maybe, I don't know. Well, Marty, show us a better album.
Well, another one Byron put out in 2014. Believe in No Coming Shore by Falls of Raros.
Mm-hmm.
Another split release we did with Nordvis back in the day. But East Coast band, very woodsy black metal influenced, and this album cover is kind of perfect for this album. It's Greek. Sorry, I'm talking wrong. Gray, bleak, but atmospheric black metal. Yeah. I mean, these guys have a sound all their own, and they've kind of gotten a little bit more proggy as they've gone on, which is cool. But we put one more album out after this, and then they moved on to Gilead, as a matter of fact. But great guys, great band. This is awesome record. If you're into that very emotive black metal with a lot of interesting, atypical melody lines mixed with black metal dissonance. Great band. Really good live, too.
Yeah, I like that one. I like that one by them. It's a cool project.
The next one you put out is one of my favorites, the Vigilance Perennial.
Yeah. Yep.
That's the one I have. That one's great. And I think that was 2016 or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And I don't know, man. Brian's a maniac in the chat. He's inspired me to pull out 2 other Stoner Doom bands. How are you guys doing on pools? I got
2 more and I'm done.
I now have once again I have 4 more.
Well, show 2 this time, and
all right.
Yeah, show 2 this one and show 2 the next one.
All right, these will be the two Stoner.
I'm gonna go use a little potty room when you guys are doing that.
All right. So first off, we got this is Cavern by the band Inter Arma. So this is one of those interesting all genre bands. They just they do whatever they can with whatever they can. But I think at their core, they're definitely a Neurosis style sludge band. And what is cool about this is technically an EP, but it's one of those EPs where it's actually 45 minutes. So yeah, that's not an EP, guys. Nice try though. It's still great. It's one long song. Of course, called The Cavern, and it flows beautifully. It features vocals by Dothria Cottrell from Windhand. So if you guys know Windhand, she pops up about halfway through on this album or this song, if you look at it like that, and really makes it worthwhile and just makes it absolutely breathtaking. I mean, this is like a 9 out of 10 album / song for me. So I would definitely recommend The Cavern by Inter Arma. This is my favorite release by them. But you can't go wrong with really any of their albums. So definitely pick this one up if you can. And then they kind of go into like the more stoner aspect real quick. Sorry for pulling too much, but here. Let's talk about Truck Fighters. Yeah, we got Universe, and this is straight up the stoner desert rock vibe. But the funny part for these kind of bands is, it sounds like stoner and it sounds like desert rock, and you think you're on the planet Arrakis and stuff. But guess what? These guys are from Sweden, so I don't know how that translates, or how the Swedes are able to conjure up like desert landscapes and stuff, but they succeed. And Universe doesn't quite measure up to like some of their early output, but it's still grade A Truck Fighters and worth buying. Worth it for the first track, Mind Control, and the final track, Masto Don't. But there we go. That was my 2.
All right, Alen.
All right, let's see what we got left here. Yeah, okay. Who needs some more power metal? It was a power metal year. Now, this one I only heard recently. Dwayne sent this to me. So cheers, Dwayne. Thank you very much. It was the last studio album to date by Edguy called Space Police. Edguy started out, as kind of a very classic power speed band in the European style. They got a bit more symphonic over time, and then they kind of got more and more silly. So with the later albums, it can be a little hit or miss because sometimes they do just get a bit too goofy. I mean, calling it Space Police and having an album cover like this tells you that, yes, you're not in for the most serious of listens. Cynic, this ain't. But this one is pretty good by Edguy. There's enough solid songs on here that you still feel like it's a good experience overall. There's nothing on it that starts to feel too dippy. They had songs like Lavatory Love Machine on an album. That just,
how does that work?
It doesn't. It just doesn't. That's the kind of thing that really does make you want to just go put on corpse paint and pretend you've never heard of power metal.
Yep.
But no, this one was pretty solid, and kind of a shame that it's the last thing they did. I think at this point the Project A had probably sort of run its course. Like I said, they'd already tried a few different styles here and there. But I think a bigger thing too was that Tobias Sammet was just more and more involved with his Avantasia project, and that one takes a lot of coordination because there's always a ton of guest musicians on every album.
And it's guaranteed to be a win because if you employ the best vocalists of all power metal to be on your album, there's more people checking that out than Edguy.
Yeah, by this time that was very much true. Edguy had a period there, maybe in the latest 90s or early 2000s. They were definitely a pretty big name in power metal circles. By 2014, Avantasia had eclipsed them in terms of popularity. It's a little similar to the situation with Sabotage and Trans-Siberian Orchestra. It's like one of these things is going to make me a heck of a lot more money than the other. Maybe I should spend more time on that one. The other one is at a point where it's not doing so hot, so maybe we just got to kind of put that project to bed and focus on the other baby over here. So, but they went out with, I am glad Space Police, was a pretty decent Edguy album that they didn't go out on one that was, overly silly and kind of did a disservice to their legacy, because they do have a lot of good albums, and they were a name in power metal, and that did help Avantasia kind of springboard into its own creation. It didn't have to come out of nowhere. It already had Tobias's name on it, and he already had a good reputation from the early Ed Guy albums. But yep, this would be the last for Ed Guy. Doesn't look like that project will probably do anything in the future, but
Probably not.
Oh well.
I can blame Ed Guy for one of the reasons why I never got into power metal. And the album specifically is Rocket Ride. If if you know that one, I think I stumbled on that one kind of early on, and that
you started at the wrong place.
I started on the wrong end of Ed Guy for sure.
Yep, not the place you want to be. That's a good example of one that there's that one. I think there's one called Superheroes that it really is getting too cartoony. For its own good, and for your own good, Logan.
The late 2000s was not good. I was also Hammerfall too. Around that era, it was.
Yeah, Hammerfall put out a record in 2014 too, which I actually have, but it isn't. It's okay. It's not great. It's okay.
I didn't even know they did one in 2014, and I've shown a lot of power metal tonight.
Yep.
All right, Marty, what you got here to start wrapping up with?
All right, 2 more records that we put out through Bindrune. This was a good split. Falls of Auroros, Panopticon split. All exclusive material for this split. 4 songs from Panopticon, more of a black metal vibe, traditional black metal vibe, and then 2 Falls of Auroros songs within their style, their mystical woodland style. But the Panopticon shit's a little bit more raw black metal. This was Austin spent some time in Norway. He was an apprentice at a brewery there. So he tried to emulate the Norwegian black metal spirit a bit on his side of the split. This is good. Probably never going to be repressed, although it might do well. I don't know. A lot of fun. Good split. Perfect compliment for both bands to be together on this one for sure. Good stuff.
Marty, just wait until you have to assemble the 6 LP Panopticon box set, assembling all the splits.
Yeah, that's probably coming. Yeah,
there you go.
There's going to be a split at some point too with Panopticon: The Glorious Dead, but I don't know if that's happening this year or not. We'll see.
Now the box has to be 7 albums long.
I know.
We were pushing it to cram it all into 6, and you've just pushed it over the edge. You're going to have to expand it to 7.
Yep. And I got one more from my label, and that's it.
Okay.
Logan, what you got?
So I can sneak 2 in for this final.
Yep, pop
final
your
round.
2 in here.
All right,
Perfect.
All right, let's see. One more death metal album, and this might be the most intense that technical death metal has really gotten in my eyes. This is Disgravity. Have you guys heard of them?
Nope.
They are Desecravity. Let me see if we can. I don't know, my logic is working. But these guys are from Japan, and they are over-the-top, intense, technical death metal, but in a nice, tight little package, too. So this album is like 33 minutes. Really, it's the only way to digest it. It's relentless. It does not let up. It's like a wall of sound. And the drummer is amazing. Like, his drum kit must be one of those like 360 things where he's got like the Neil Peart like rototoms up here, an extra drum kit behind him. I don't know. He keeps pulling out these different sounds in this album. And guys, here, this is the deal of the day. And I'm not trying to plug Amazon because I guess fuck Amazon, right? But this is available for $5 new on Amazon. Pick it up if you can. I mean, it's a great album. Spin it first just to make sure that I'm not lying. But it's called Orphic Signs. And they have 3 albums in total. Their debut, I forget the name, but also really good. And they released one just recently, I think in 2020 or 2021. But that's Desecravity from Japan. And then one of my all-time, well, I thought they might be one of my all-time favorite bands. They came out of the gates with like 2 EPs, just ready to take over the metal underground and the metal world. And then they kind of followed up with a lackluster debut album. And I'm talking about Bolzer. Did you guys ever get into Bolzer?
I never did, but I never
The
gave them
Wolf
much of a
Shook
chance.
the Wolf Shook song is the best song they ever did, and it's like no song has ever been as good as that. So what's the name of that song? Something Wolf
Entranced
Shook.
by Wolf Shook.
Yeah. That song, the riff is so massive, but they never could recapture that song. Yeah.
God, it's that song overshadows their whole career.
Yeah.
And it really is something to be said about if you peak too early, you know, peaked in high school, man, I guess is what these guys, because they released that EP, they had that song, then they had an amazing set at Maryland Death Fest when they like debuted, and I don't think they could measure up career wise, you know. So
they put out a few things after that, and the buzz just never was as good.
Nope.
Yeah.
This is the closest though. So this is not that. The Entranced by Wolf Shook came off of their debut EP, which is Aura. This is their second one, which is Soma.
What the hell is Wolf Shook, by the way?
Does
anybody know? What the hell is Wolf Shook? If you're entranced by it, what is it? I don't even heard of Wolf Shook.
You go out in the woods, you pick up a wolf, and you...
Don't shake the baby! Anyway.
Yeah, this one's almost as good, though not quite, because there's not a song that stands out just as much as Wolf Shook or Wolf's Hook, whatever you call it. And Simon's mentioning that Hero is a good album. I think the reason why I don't like Hero is because they started bringing in these weird, clean singing elements, and it sounded a bit more atmospheric and abstract, and it kind of lost me, you know? So I'll have to try it again. It's been a bit since I listened, but this one and Aura are both superior to me. And yeah, Bolzer will always be an amazing band in my book because of these 2 EPs. But there you go. That's my 2014.
All right, Alen.
Well, it turns out the wolf hook or Wurfsangel was a European medieval wolf hunting tool where a hook was concealed inside a chunk of meat that would impale the unexpecting wolf when it bit into it.
So if you're entranced by it, it means you have the wolf's perspective, huh?
Yeah, that you're like
if you're the one
boy, that looks like some mighty tasty meat. It's a little suspicious. It's sitting out here in the middle of nowhere with that big chain attached to it, but just can't look away from it because, man, that looks pretty good.
See, everybody, it's in a roundabout way. Every week we teach you something. We teach you something here, whether you want to hear it or not.
This is an educational show.
Yeah, it wasn't clicking with me, but then I remembered Marty a while back. You sent me a CD by a band called Wolf Hook, and it's just like, well, wait, it's not just a random word; it must mean something then. And yes, thank you. Sometimes the internet does good things for us.
Yeah, sometimes
it does. Sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes it does a lot of naughty things too.
Sometimes it tells you what a wolf hook is. Sometimes it enrages you when you realize that the lone wolf doesn't have a little heart button on their Bandcamp page. That's what we need. We need to get a big chunk of meat, put it on a digital spike, wave it around, and then the lone wolf members will come back and they'll put a little heart on their Bandcamp page.
Yep.
They will be entranced by the lone wolf hook. I got that.
Oh, God. I love it.
All right, let's wrap this up. We were talking about this one backstage before it started up tonight. Sayor has their second album in 2014 with Aura. And this one's noteworthy because Austin from Panopticon plays drums on it, which gives it a nice boost of power compared to the debut. The debut album was nice. It's kind of a good proof of concept, with them going into, again, sort of, the folk black metal, working in some of the tin whistles and stuff, as part of their instrumentation. that album, makes, for good background music, but, Aura, definitely feels more powerful with, the stronger drum performance. Um, we've talked about this album and, this band before. They've, gone on to have, pretty good success and done a pretty good set of albums. I don't think I've heard the most recent one. I think I've got the first 4, but not there's at least a 5th one by now. But anyway, Aura is often the one I go back to simply because, the songs just feel a little more dynamic, stand out a little bit better individually rather than just putting it on. Now, unlike Cynic, this is a band where you can put them on in the background, get a good sense for them, and enjoy it quite a bit. But if you want to, really focus on the songs individually, this is the one I would recommend. So yeah, good Sayer album and a good one to end on for me for the night. But Marty, I believe you've got at least one more you want to go over.
Yep. I haven't listened to this since it came out, but I with Bindrune did a collab release with my buddy Jim, who you see on the Wednesday Album Club with iWaz Recordings. I think this was a first release for him. But we put out the Quivering Lights, which is a split between Knocked Right, and Spectral Lore. Evil Chamber music, maybe. Knocked Right is kind of a neoclassical type of band. Spectral Lore is kind of known for black metal, more or less, with some other influences wrapped into it. But for this album, for this split, he kind of rose to the occasion, and there's a lot more piano on this mixed in with some minor metal elements to accompany the guest Knocked Right. So the split isn't really completely isn't lopsided. It's a very mystical sounding record. Chamber music, more or less. Love the cover art on this thing. It was just one of those things that was super different, and we wanted to give it a try. Spectral Lore was kind of a band that was got a name rising up in the underground and was a one and done type of thing. It sold out pretty quick. We didn't do many copies of this, maybe 300. Maybe we did 100. I don't remember. This is the first I've looked at this record in a long time, so it's been sitting on my rack ever since it came out. But yeah, good stuff. And yeah, this was the end of a very productive year for Bindrune for sure. A lot of bigger things happening for the label. Been doing it for 24 years now, and it's still a slow growth. Just the way it is. Keep it DIY, right? But yeah, and that's it. Are we all through it? Did we rumble through the 2014?
I believe we've covered it pretty thoroughly. So yeah.
So
interesting mix of stuff in 2014. Like we saw, some genres don't have a huge presence like thrash. Others, a lot more entries showing up. So yeah, interesting year to go through for sure. Great topic, Logan. Thanks.
I totally forgot to grab Tolka's Striden's Huss. That was an album I listened to a lot in 2014. Incantation, Dirges of Elysium. Is that the name of that album?
Yeah,
that came out in 2014. They're on my list. I skipped over them as I was pulling stuff. So, yep, the Tolka album, that was one I listened to a lot. I've loved all of his stuff. So, or Tak. Everybody says Tak, but I think the pronunciation is Tolka. So, yeah. There's still so much more that we didn't cover, but yeah, I think we all covered a very nice, diverse swath of bands for sure. And Logan, we appreciate you stepping in such a short notice. It was great to have you, man.
Yeah, no worries, guys. I appreciate you, having me back on, and anytime. That's all I can say. It's great fun. Enjoyed doing this, and enjoyed talking about one of the newer years in metal for sure. Like, I think it's important to still appreciate, because we're very much focused on either the the current, or the classic glory era. So I think it's important to focus on this time period as well.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Logan. It's either less than 6 weeks old, or it's 30 years old, and sometimes this stuff in between does get a little bit forgotten. So yeah, we've got we're working our way slowly and steadily through this year in metal for different years. So we'll definitely be covering more of the 21st century heavy metal years, and I'm betting we're going to have you back on for some of those if you'll do it.
Keep me in mind. I'm here for it.
Absolutely. And Sunday morning sessions, please do. The link to Logan's channel, Metal and Beer Snob, is in the description. So if you're seeing Logan for the first time, he's a great dude. He has a very cool channel.
Mm-hmm.
He reminds me a lot of Kellen. He's very insightful and thoughtful in his assessment and critiques of music. And definitely go check out his channel. A lot of fun, as always.
And to my knowledge, he has always kept his pants on YouTube. Unlike Kellen,
there's no channel, there's no shower video out there yet. So
no full frontal of Logan that you have to worry about scarring your wife with.
Oh my God, I showed that to everybody. That was the best promo video ever. That was so good. But yeah, and show notes. There'll be a review up on Monday.
Did you say Melanie's got something?
Yeah, Melanie reviewed the new Slime Lord record, which came out today.
Oh, right.
So that'll be up. I got some reviews
came out today.
Yeah, a lot of stuff come out. New Judas Priest, which I haven't listened to yet. The singles I've heard have been good, and everybody's talking about it. I'll get to it eventually.
Yep. New Early Moods came out today for folks that like a little bit more Black Sabbath meets Witchfinder General in their doom. Yep, new album from them over on Riding Easy Records.
Yep. And I've got a few reviews I plan on hopefully doing this weekend coming up. I know Alan's got a Riot 5 review coming up. It's already in the hopper.
Yep, we got about a month before the Riot comes out, so there's some time.
Yep. But and then next Friday we have Darcy is coming back. We will be doing a dive and ranking of the Wasp catalog. So if you're into Wasp, well, even if you're not into Wasp, we're going to be here doing it. So come and visit us. Darcy rules as always. It's always good to have him back. It's been a while. So yep, we'll be doing that.
It has. He will be here, and all we crazy animals will stream like a beast.
That's right. But thank you, everybody in the chat that joined us tonight. You all rule. You're one of the best communities in the metal realm on YouTube. We appreciate all of you so much. Thank you for joining us. Logan, again, you rule. Don't hang up. We'll chit-chat afterwards. And, yep, we stream like a beast for sure. But cheers, everyone. We will see you next week.